Well, welcome back, everyone, to the SBL here in Season 9. Of course, you just heard them talk about it for a couple of minutes there. But just so you know, much like Neil recommends and that Dave tells you can do, you can go to smitegame.com/alienware right now. Use code AWSMITE09 to get discounts on a lot of products, whether you want one of these beautiful laptops like we use not only on the desk, but I use back in the green room and at home, things like that, or if you want to play on the Aurora Ryzen R10 desktops, as well as those 244 hertz gaming monitors like the Pros are just down the hall from us, and as well as at home. Well, go ahead and get your hands on those, get your gear, and save some money while you're at it using the code AWSMITE09 again at smitegame.com/alienware. Thanks to Alienware for coming back in Season 9 and hanging out with us at the SBL. Of course, it's Gormizer once again, and we got Mifflin on the desk with me as we're moving into the Dragons and the Valkyries taking each other on. Now, the Valkyries, this is a must-win scenario if they want to even make it to the playoffs. They lose this, they're out. Done there. For the Dragons, if they win, they ruin the Kings' hopes of trying to take second away from them, solidify themselves in second place, and that all of a sudden, I think, makes them relax a little bit more over the rest of the weekend. They only have one more set anyway, but that would be a very good start forward to not just the week break, but then going into playoffs as well.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but so long as the Dragons win one of their two sets, they are confirmed for second.
Yes.
So it's either going to be the Valks or the Bolts that they're going to have to win up against.
Yeah.
But as far as the Valkyries are concerned,
It has to be.
Has to
now.
win here, and they have to beat the Bolts at the end of the phase.
Yes.
But not only that, they're also reliant on the Bolts losing to the Dragons.
Yes.
If the Bolts take a win in any of their next two sets, Valkyries are stuck in bottom two.
And it was a little closer for them. Like if they had won their set yesterday, it wouldn't have been as strict for them.
And it was close.
Unfortunately, yeah, they fall to the newly formed Scarabs. That was the start of yesterday. A surprise, I think, for a few. Not as surprising for others. I saw quite a few people saying that they thought, and you had said that yourself, this version of the Scarabs was maybe going to be one of the more powerful versions we've gotten to see maybe since their inception. And the Scarabs themselves, although I will say their Worlds run last year was really solid. Scarabs will be playing again on Sunday up against the Warriors, the second matchup that day. The Valkyries and the Bolts, that's the one you were talking about to close out the week. But that one's only going to be as important as it could be if the Valks win here and the Bolts lose tomorrow. So a lot of pressure on the Valkyries to take out the Dragons. And as you had mentioned, the Dragons, if they win today or tomorrow, then they are going to rough up the Kings. And if you're wondering how, well, if they tie at 10-4, I believe that would have to be then it does not matter, both of them at 10, because the Dragons have the head-to-head, they get second place. If the Dragons lose here and lose tomorrow and the Kings win both, then they jump up because of their set win-loss is going to take over. So there's a small window for both of these squads, the Valks and the Kings. But weirdly enough, all depending on the Dragons right now to maybe showcase what whether they can have that hope alive tomorrow or if it dies today.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity to briefly speak with Mr. Sprack, that's Spracklin, or Scream, for those of you who aren't initiated, and he had said to me, man, what an awful day. And I was like, oh, Scream, what's wrong, man? What's going on? He's like, the Kings won. Now we got to stomp these guys. Like, we were going to really have to try. So, clearly the Jade Dragons coming in with some heat up against the Valkyries, whereas previously maybe they would have taken it a little bit lighter, considering there wouldn't have been as many seeding or implications for them. Now there are, and the Jade Dragons are coming at them with full strength.
Yeah, it was that almost but not quite guaranteed second place where like you could coast a little bit thinking that the Leviathans, given how they've been tearing through the league, would maybe have taken their win, but the nice little surprise upset for the Kings there. Like you said, the Dragons have to work a little harder this time. They're going up against the Valkyries. Now, a lot of what we've been talking about the Valkyries, I think earlier this year, it was easy to talk about the three-man core in the middle. For a little bit there, we got to talk about how the duo lane was improving, but over the last couple of weeks, it is the person closest to the camera there, Aquarius, who has really been more consistent for this team. I mean, even in times where they're losing, it feels like Aqua is still being very present in the game and making some changes that are positive for them.
Yeah, and coming into this year, I'd expected Aqua to be that guy the entire time, considering he had some of the most competitive pedigree, had the most experience in the SPL, barring maybe WoWie. So it was a slow start for him in Phase 1, slow start in Phase 2, but here in Phase 3, my man has really, really geared up, looking like a Leviathan, how seriously he's been taking into the massive strides he's made for his team come end of year. So I expect more of the same from him. Maybe it could be a byproduct of finding a couple of gods that fit his pool, namely the tier has really looked good for Aqua, and That has been one that has really elevated his play, but otherwise I'd argue it's mostly the fact that he had found how he wants to address the laning phase. A lot of solo laners like to sit in lane, generate pressure, have people come to them, fight around totem, maybe invade a blue buff, and that's about it. Aqua is getting involved in early team fights in mid. The mid 3v3 is almost not a thing for the Valkyries. It's the mid 4v3 because Aqua is always present in those exchanges, be it a Lawbringer over the wall or a blink engage or something along those lines. And I think that's generally why the Valkyries have looked so good in the mid phases of the game. It used to be a conversation of Valkyries always get that early lead and then they throw it in the late. Now it's, okay, well, it's a mid-game lead and they've been able to control it a little bit more so.
Him and Kirmi were sitting so still that I was certain it was a still image until I saw Kirmi move slightly. And then suddenly they were both reanimated again. But that was a surprising amount of time. Whatever. And honestly, given the way the rest of the booth looks, I'm assuming Sharks maybe was talking to him and getting some discussion in there pre-game. But of course, they're going to be going up against the Jade Dragons. If you're looking at Aqua, then you have to look no further. The guy, again, closest to the camera there. Rocking some coffee as well, so you know the energy's going to be there. But it is fine, okay. It's so easy to just pick a dragon half the time and just say, hey, here's how this guy can carry the team.
Throw a dart at him and whoever you hit.
And it's going to be like the easiest conversation. Fine, okay, 4.8 KDA. Earlier this year and until the Leviathans recently broke it, one of the longest win streaks that a team has had. And he's just able to do anything, man. He plays whatever gods he wants, whether it's in meta, out of meta. It's always going to end up clicking pretty well. And as a frontliner, as far as frontliners go, he can carry as well. It's just been a very fun time to watch the Dragons.
Every single individual member of the Jade Dragons has this next adjective that I'm going to use on Final K. It can be applied to all of them. They're versatile. Well, at some times, we'll see Pagon playing a facilitator role. At others, he's the hyper carry. The same can be said of Final K. Sometimes it's Guan Yu and my man's looking for Fade Blast and going full tank and healing his team. At other times, he's locking into Thor and just absolutely dominating the map as a secondary jungler. It just feels like the Jade Dragons are one of those teams in the league that you never know which version you're going to get in that. Are they going to play standard Smite and play it at the top level? Are they going to run a triple assassin composition and look for pressure all the way across the screen? Is it going to be a double Cthulhu draft? You never exactly know, and it makes it so difficult to play around them. The only consistency is that each one of them are individually incredibly talented.
Yeah,
they are not losing their lanes. You can't look at one of these guys and say, yeah, this is how you beat the Jade Dragons. There is no weak link on this squad, and that's a scary thing to say this late in the year.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's a scary thought, right? It's just the idea that, yeah, they've eaten a couple of losses. They're not infallible, but nobody is in most cases, and so
Levi's
honestly,
almost weren't.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
But now we're at that point where sometimes eating some of these losses is not the end of the world. Again, if you're the Dragons here, this win secures your second place spot. If you're the Valkyries, you want to win here to even have a hope of getting sixth. And so we'll see what they end up doing, although it has been a tall order for anyone to try and take on the Dragons. And admittedly, though, currently only on a 2-set win streak. It's not been crazy, right? They come in last week, do really well. We'll see if they can continue that. And I believe we have a very, and I'm going to go ahead and preface this, a very brief interview with Pagon to hear what the Dragons' thoughts were on the matchup.
I think I played pretty well this third phase, but you can always play better. You can always improve. I think our team has done pretty well so far, except that we've pretty much thrown all the sets we've lost, I think. We should be 10-0, honestly. This past week's been a lot of fun playing Assassins, not having Aegis into Vulcan, that's pretty fun. The most difficult part about facing the Valks is we gotta shut down Benny Q, the big differ.
Mifflin, I've known their brothers. I don't know which one is like the older or the younger. Or what if they're twins, bro?
They're not.
I don't even know.
They're not twins.
Yeah, I can tell.
Fraternal, maybe.
Fraternal?
Yeah.
No.
Is that the word? I don't know.
Well, I mean, that is a type of twin, but I don't think it means the thing you think it means.
It means whatever I want it to mean.
Yeah, there you go. Katie is an identical twin. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah. It's weird. Anyway,
Pretty
I
sure
don't know
Benny's
which
the older
one.
brother,
Which
by the
one?
way.
Benny's the older
Yeah,
brother.
pretty
Okay.
sure.
In that case, it's some comeuppance from the younger brother there from Pagon. You can tell they have their targets set on the the Valkyries here. But not only that, I think we got the air that to me kind of screamed what exactly this team was, which is that Pagon thinks they should have been 10-0. They've kind of messed up some of their games and ended up losing. So we'll see if they can keep it going here in picks and bans for game number 1. Maybe reclaim not just a win streak, but into the phase out. Definitely in 2nd seed. Again, for the top 2 seeds in the playoffs, you only have to win 1 set in order to guarantee your qualifiers to Worlds, as opposed to everybody else who's going to have to, if I remember correctly, play and win at least 2. It's going to be a double elimination bracket with the 6 teams. So a lot of interesting things that can crop up around that time. The bans start rolling through. Cupid tier, so far banned by the Dragons. 1 controls Wowie, 1 controls Aqua, and then, of course, somebody else who's been on the rise, although has also been playing some weird picks out of the jungle. The Dodgy taken away from Kirmi. On the other side, Yamoja away from Mike, the Hades away from Fine OK, and then whatever the 3rd ban will be.
So you're telling me Pagon not only gave us possibly our shortest interview of the year, but also lied? Because I don't see any control towards the Big Differ, all right? I mean, no mid-bans as of yet. Maybe the Valks will toss one out themselves. I doubt it. And if they did, maybe possibly like a Vulcan here, considering how strong that pick has been as of recent. But some of the mage changes, with Aegis being back, Vulcan's seen a little bit less play. Instead, it's going to be the Ymir ban. Very much in line with the standard. Just get rid of that consistent structure, that wall that can really separate some of these engagements. Phenomenal CC immune ultimate, and pretty deceptively strong objective secure. And in the Hunter battle, it's generally CERN or Ishtar that's taken first overall.
Yep.
Jade Dragons take CERN for themselves this time around. AoE damage, consistent laning phase, flexibility into both mid and into the ADC role. Doesn't really reveal much about your draft besides the fact that CERN's going to be there. But it is one that is consistent. It will at least maybe restrict the Valkyries in some of their selections. If your job as a soul laner is to dive the backline, picks like Tyr tend to struggle a little bit more up against CERN. The dash so quick, the cripple on Bramble Blast make it a little bit more difficult for Tyr to find some of those opportunities, and that's been one that Aqua's been apt to go towards.
Well, Vulcan, you had mentioned it, he's been seeing less play, but not no play. The Valkyries are going to grab that. They grab the Ishtar as well, you had mentioned. If Karn goes one way, typically Ishtar goes the other. Otherwise, you end up with both on one side, and that is bad news bears for a lot of these teams. They get the Vulcan. And as mentioned before, Vulcan with no Aegis felt real good for a lot of these guys. Aegis having been fixed now in the most recent patch, all of a sudden opens up the conversation for the Aegis being there. I'm also interested just in general to see what Pagon plays because of, like you said, the mage changes that have arrived.
I shall bear your burdens.
And I know I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to hope that it's not true, but yesterday we watched BenEQ play the Atlas mid. Pagon maybe wants to beat his brother on the same pick, but it could and probably should go over towards Mike. But the Thor as well picked up, which we've seen go a few ways for the Dragons.
It is the most difficult part of my job on the daily to do these death segments for the Jade Dragons.
Yep.
Because you sound so dumb every single time I have to say it. Yeah, Thor's really good, great global presence, decent damage output, some buffs to him recently, make him really good in a plethora of roles. Could go solo, could go jungle, could go support, could go mid, right? I mean, we literally have no idea.
We know at least Panda Cat probably not playing him.
Probably not.
But with the fact that we have to say probably.
Anywhere else we'd say most certainly not going to be Panda Cat, but it is a probability that it won't be going over to the duo lane. The Jade Dragons are so difficult to lock down because of this. And it is a conversation that we had a while back. The difference between like clowns and villains is that villains will sometimes win. The Jade Dragons have proven with their wacky compositions that completely fly in the face of traditional SMITE knowledge and standard compositions and classical knowledge of how the game should be played. They're capable of winning out against the best teams in the league with it. So you have to treat this like a threat. And how do you prepare for it? If we were to break down the composition as it stands as of now, I would say it is likely a CERN Atlas duo lane with Thor in the jungle.
Yeah.
Maybe a slight nod to solo lane Thor.
Yep.
But because it's the Jade Dragons, it could be Atlas mid. It could be Thor solo. It could be CERN mid. It's so hard to lock them down.
It is increasingly difficult when it comes down to this team. If I remember, wasn't it last week, that the Dragons played Thor solo as well. So always present in mind. And of course, when the bans come out, well, Osiris locked in there as the third pick for the Valkyries. The bans start to roll through. And you get Set and Yu Huang, and you might think, oh, okay, one to the jungle, one to the mid. No, it's both mid. That is Jesp and Pagon playing the Set. The Yu Huang as well, something that, honestly, Pagon's Yu Huang might just be the best Yu Huang that we've seen in the league. I mean, at least most consistent for sure, considering how often he's hitting those ults, even blind firing them and having them work out. Other side, Kabrakan and Athena get banned away, targeting Gamma a little bit. Gamma will then opt to go for the Terra. And this Osiris, I guess we've seen it a lot, and most of the time lately it's been in the jungle. Do you think that it still feels stronger in the jungle than in solo right now?
Yeah, I think so. Just Mana Conceptor Osiris, just being able to walk down literally anybody he wants at level 1 through level 3 through level 20 essentially if you pull a lead. It is just a really valuable tool. He's got so much damage mitigation thanks to that third ability that he's almost an off tank for your team, can create a little bit of space for some of these hyper carries like Vulcan, like Ishtar. So no complaints from me. I think it is very likely headed for the jungle, and it's one that Kirmi's seen some pretty decent success on in the past. We've noticed that Kirmi, when he generally goes towards some of the more standard picks for himself, things like the Ratatasker, it's generally a very quiet early game, and then it's getting involved more so towards the mid to late.
Yeah.
Whereas this Osiris, he really has adapted his playstyle. It reminds me of like Phase 1, Phase 2 Kirmi, where he's locking in Erlong Shen every game, and he loves pressuring the jungle. He'll go towards your back camps and fight you there at level 3 or catch you on the first wave of contestable farm, and it just creates so much more space for the Valkyries to operate. So I think this is a pick that they can really lean on, so long as Kirmi's having a good day.
Yeah, that's, I think, the key. Yesterday we saw it in Game 1 against the Scarabs, very controlling. And so I wouldn't mind seeing maybe some very aggressive play and hands-on play from the Valkyries to keep things in their favor. Danzaburo,
Jungle.
covered right now. You say jungle.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I genuinely can't think of anyone that's not PandaCat that has played this pick, at least as often as he has. Maybe there's been like the stray Danza from a couple other players, but like it is almost just PandaCat's god, right, at this point. Nobody else really plays him often. And when they do, they just blanket statement, don't play it as well as PandaCat does.
Decay.
The question
and
was going to be
rot.
what else they lock in. And Mifflin, as if your job wasn't hard enough.
Ever see a gun this big?
All right, with this I can say, I feel a little more confident that Danza is PandaCat. And with that confidence, I then think Cernanos mid, and Atlas support. Those three feel like that has to fall in that way. You can disagree with me if you want. I won't blame you, honestly, because it's the
you
Dragons.
got it.
Thor and Kleena, which one has a better jungle, which one has a better solo, and is that even going to matter with where the Dragons throw them?
Thor is going solo, Kleena is going jungle, just by nature of history, right?
Yeah.
Screams are taking that Kleena into the jungle pretty consistently. Final K is a massive fan of Thor and what it brings to team composition, so I think I am fairly confident, 85, 90% confident that is the allocation of this draft. Which one's better in which role? I mean, that's a conversation that we'd have to have over like a 30-minute debate, right?
But and like you said, it wouldn't matter anyway.
Wouldn't matter because that's what's happening. That is what's happening. It's Thor solo, it's Kleena jungle. But I do want to talk about this Danzaburo because it is one that you were right. PandaCat is the only one that was playing it. But when he was consistently playing it was back when Sanford Soccer was with this team. And the combo was, it's really hard to deal with Danzaburo ultimate and Mercury ultimate in conjunction. Danzaburo could just gap close so easily. Mercury does the exact same thing, and they run you down through the lane. Generally, I like to see the Danzaburo now matched up with any form of global presence. A Thor donk, a Thanatos donk, things along those lines. Because Danzaburo on his own, without a lead, generally is not allowed to use that ultimate aggressively. It is very difficult for him to find some of those 1v1 opportunities until he's legitimately one-shotting you off the back of his ultimate, which is why we saw that Mercury work so well with this pick. He's always able to follow up. Kleena, not exactly that follow-up, or not exactly easy follow-up. You really need to be in position, and it's a very telegraphed initiation from Danzaburo. Kleena doesn't have traditional CC either, so it really is fully up to Danzaburo to get things started in his lane. I think it is likely that we see PandaCat left on an island. I don't imagine we see Scream making too many rotations over towards the duo lane. Instead, very likely wants to play in that mid 2v2, 3v3, or even closer to the soul lane.
I mean, when you've got, well, I guess in this case, Atlas, Kleena, Kern, mid, 3v3 feels pretty solid. Although, yeah, you've got on the other side the Osiris, like you said, that can get hands-on pretty early. Can the Kleena match that pace that an Osiris sets, or is the Osiris going to be able to at least get the first few minutes in his favor?
There are like 3 gods that have ever matched Osiris's pace in the jungle. I'm thinking like back to Worlds, it was Erlong, Osiris, and then sometimes Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
Gilgamesh has eaten a lot of nerfs since then. He's not there. Erlong unpicked. Kleena's not doing what Osiris does.
Well, we'll see. Is that going to be the difference maker for the Valkyries? We'll find out in Game 1 with J-Mac and Trelly.
Yeah, that's right. A lot on the line for both of these teams, even more so, at least for the Valhalla Valkyries, who need to get this set win in order to give themselves a chance to breaking into the top 6. Jade Dragons, what they've got on the line is, well, that top 2 spot. They win this set, and they've comfortably given themselves the number 2 seed moving in towards playoffs. So definitely still a lot at stake for both of them, just much heavier emphasis for the Valkyries. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug for game number 1 between the Dragons and the Valks. And we get a nice little treat to start today, or to start this set out, Trelly. We get Panda Cat back on Donza Bro. Haven't seen this in a long time from him.
Yeah, I suppose it's a treat. I'm still waiting to see exactly how it pans out, right? I think because Panda likes the aggressive style of picks, and Donza is nothing but aggression, right? You're going to be using that rocket to try and find 1v1s wherever possible, chase down, the Ishtar. Wowie is going to have to play extremely safe because of that. So with the build that Panda Cats went, it's not the Bluestone and full damage style build. It's going to be that Gilded Arrow, the Dev Gauntlets, and I think he's still going to be shredding, as this pick can certainly do. So, I expect to see Panda Cat get active on it, but I don't know if we're in a Donza meta, Like, we'll have to see. I'll have to wait to see exactly how Panda Cat decides to play this pick as the game continues.
Gamma just being bullied by PBM. I think that was actually 2 rotations of the dash from PBM that he used to slow down Gamma. Full wave, though, still there for Panda Cat, so he didn't miss out on any of this farm, despite the fact that he went for the double buff start for himself. Purple buff on both the ADCs. Mike didn't get any of the experience from that camp. Both of the smalls, they go to Gamma. Dash in, gets a stun, and a jolt from Wowie. That puts PBM about half HP, and second charge of the Sunder now from PBM used onto Wowie.
I love the Sunder pickups now because it's always been strong, right? The Sundering Blast onto a group of enemies late game, especially on these tankier targets, has always been strong. But the fact that these supports are picking it up so early and essentially just using it as a poke tool in lane, like you can look at PBM's damage. He's already at 1,000 at this point into the game just because he's constantly firing it off cooldown as well as dashing in aggressively trying to set up for kills onto Wowie. That taunt is going to land, but Wowie holds on to the beats. Probably a smart call. You never know when Scream could come for an early gank, and you might need some of that CC immunity from the silence that Kleena can bring, things like that. So good patience by Wowie, and I'll keep my eyes on the junglers, right? Because you have 2 options. The Interceptor's up. You don't really have the Totem of Ku for a little bit. So right side of the map, left side of the map, both junglers currently at their back camps. On the right, that means Duo Lane is left on an island.
Duo Lane going to be doing their own thing. Mid kind of left to their own devices as well, as it is a Cern-Vulcan matchup in mid. Cerno's not necessarily a god that I would associate with Pagon. I see him as more of the mage or assassin style of play, so we'll see how he fares on this Hunter that's kind of been on the rise in that spot. With a blue buff invade by Kirmi and Aqua. To the blue of Final Case, secured by Scream, who can jump inside the wall real quick. Silence does hit 2, dash out, double wall, double hammer, and Aquarius is low. 1 more tick would do it. 1 more hit of anything, but Kirmi is turning it back around. Aegis on Scream, jukes out the flail, needs 1 more hit, dash out, but the mannequin proc from Kirmi will make it a 1-for-1 trade at the end.
I mean, that was an incredible series of events. Double Assassin versus double Warrior, and especially a Mannequin Scepter Osiris should never be able to contend that buff. I mean, going for the steal, that was great, but then Final hits the wall, the double tap, and the aggression as Pagon goes and steals Aquarius's blue buff. I see exactly what he's doing. He's making sure that Final K gets all the lead in the world. That's a good mid laner right there. All you solo laners, get you a Pagon that's going to wait for you to get your own blue buff and steal away the enemy solo laner. So now Aquarius has a steep hill to climb. Not exactly level 5 just yet. And Final K is going to be on point with this Thor, getting that first blood. And then the Mannequin Scepter was able to get Kirmi the return kill on to Scream. But that means this Thor going to be sitting just fine in lane.
And maybe the good news is that Final K was the one who at least got the kill, so there's no immediate return bonus bounty for Kirmi. He just gets the kill up against Scream. But Final K, the unfortunate part about going up against the Bologna in lane is that you don't really have the best clear yourself to contend with it. At least not yet. Should be fine once he gets a few more points into that hammer. Maybe that spin afterwards. But Jade Dragons with that first blood do have themselves about a 400 or so gold lead. Most of that just being that first blood bounty, 800 in the experience column as well. Nothing too crazy at this point. Only notable thing is that with that rotation from Pagon earlier on, BennyQ has been able to pick up a very slight, about half-level lead in the mid-roll.
Yeah, the XP and the gold, I'm not sure Pagon's too worried about. It's the mental damage you've done to Aquarius, right? You're like, okay, we almost got the blue buff invade. Kirmi almost got a clean pick and got out, but, you know, ended up dying for first blood. And then my blue buff was invaded by a Cernanos, man? Like, not even by the jungle or the solo, a mid laner. You just hear the little cleave auto attacks on your own buff, and you're like, come on, now I gotta deal with this. That does start to add up. But Aquarius, he's been playing Smite for a long time, especially at the competitive. At this level, you know, he's not gonna be tilted by one single blue buff invade, and should be winning just fine up against a Thor in lane. Kirmi wants to get aggressive into Scream's jungle, but with Pagon here, probably just going to back off after stealing away the big Harpy there. And then it looks like just sitting by the farm, you know. BennyQ level 7 will be able to match the pressure of Scream just by, you know, the turret helps out, especially on the Scorpion or the Pyromancer, that sort of thing. But Scream still has a lot of damage. This Kleena, once that first mace item gets online, you got to look towards these squishy targets, because I think Kleena could bring a lot to the table, especially with these ganks.
Yeah, those squishier targets be BennyQ and Wowie on the two carries. The unfortunate part of Aqua is having to deal with that every single time he goes for that bludgeon swing. Will be stunned out by Final K, who now has a Runeforged hammer online. You can see he's not even putting points into the bludgeon.
Scourge
Going
maxer.
Strictly for the HP sustain of that Scourge instead.
I mean, yeah, if you can't clear with your bludgeon, the Scourge is always going to help out. Good double tap onto Aquarius. The damage is coming. This is that Runeforge start that Final K's been going for. Looks like BennyQ should be getting a little bit of aggression towards him. Doesn't even have to beads, though. Holds on to him once again. A lot of patience from the Valks. I mean, PPM has been consistently using that kinetic charge in, but Panicat does not have that patience. He is going to use those beads.
Gets to the leaf, throws down the spirits, and that will taunt Gamma back in and away to allow Panicat to live through that fight. Mike on the way over, but has been spotted out by WoW. Instead, Mike will just drop a ward. Keep vision on the top side of that Scepter pit. Does end up at least being a gilded arrow start for Panicat. So it's going to get him a little bit of extra gold, a little bit of extra power through there. Scream rotating in. Ultimate by PBM. Walls by Gamma lock himself and Mike in place. Mike will be taken down by Kirmi, and the double ult from Scream. Not going to get the kill onto Gamma, but definitely get him low. It's a Scepter trade out. Scepter to the Dragons, but a kill for the Valks.
Yeah, I think that Gamma has been really on point with these walls. I mean, not in this set in particular. I saw a couple really clutch ones the last time he played Terra, but even this time, locking in Mike there. Not going for the stun, just holding it, because there's no Phantom Shell. You're stuck in that position for such a long time. The Valhalla Valkyries able to push themselves ahead kills-wise 2-1, but the gold still certainly in favor of the Dragons. It's about the value of that first blood bounty that Final K was able to claim, and losing PBM for a kill, another kill, over to Kirmi is going to help out that jungle pressure. I mean, Mifflin and they were talking on the desk about how this Osiris should not be getting out pressured, right? Kleena clears decently fast, but not Mannequin's Osiris fast. And I think because of that, Kirmi has been using this pressure throughout the map. Looking to get aggressive whenever possible, has the Golden Blade, going into the kin size probably afterwards. Gonna really help shred through these targets. And that's exactly what you want from an Osiris this early on.
Now, one of the concerns, at least for the Dons were on the desk from Mifflin, was that at least for the Dons, needs a little bit of extra help so he can keep playing this very aggressive style. For now, he's the one being aggressed on by Gamma. Wow, and Kirmi will also rotate in and steal away purple buff, so that's going to be some XP lost to Panda. But it was mostly of the fact that you need someone to help get that quick, immediate follow-up whenever the rocket goes through to allow you to play aggressive with the rocket in lane. Haven't seen a rotation really from Scream aside from the one just earlier on for the Scepter that's maybe been able to help out. I imagine maybe once Final Case starts getting involved, once you start seeing some of these Furies, could see some more aggressive play from Panda.
Dude, if we see some Anvil of Dawns into the rocket chase down from Panicat, that'd be a wild team fight, just because there's so many deployables that Gamma has to try and block that rocket, as well as just, you know, body blocking it. You don't even have to use the walls. You can just use yourself to stop that rocket in its place. So it's going to be difficult for Panicat to try and dive the backline, but I've seen him navigate that rocket through the jungle many times as Pagon is He's going to get stunned out. Did have to use those beads. But it looks like still getting aggressive are the Dragons.
Mike goes in, drops ultimate and the astrolabe, but not going to get too much. Pull finds a couple, but not going to pick anybody up with it. Instead, it is a full retreat now for the Jade Dragons, only losing out on the beads, at least for the mid laner, but it was traded by a horrific emblem on the opposite side for the Valks.
Yeah, I think Pagon's beads are a little bit more valuable at the moment just because of how much CC the Valkyries have. Scorpion invade here, but Kiermi and Gamma on the way. Looks like those buffs are not going to be enhanced, so good steal, but Final K's going to the sky.
Oh, Scream can't get inside the wall. Instead, he'll take down Gamma, dunk in by Final K, and Scream is just navigating his way out of this fight. He jukes out the flail one more time, and now Aquarius stuck in the middle of 3, dropped down by the mid laner of the Jade Dragons. Pagon puts his first kill on the board, and the Dragons with 3.
Yeah, that's a massive ultimate there from Final K. Scream was very close to going down. Couldn't quite get into the wall, as you said, that health threshold. Not able to escape, but with the help from the solo laners. I mean, Aquarius also had that clutch rotation in, but it wasn't quite dishing out the damage that this Thor was able to. BBM trying to grab the beads off of Wowie. Once again, this Ishtar not stepping too far out of the tower line. It's very difficult to catch Wowie out of position in a situation like this. He knows his team just lost a fight in mid lane, and he's not walking too far away. Benny Q and Gamma are close by. It doesn't look like they are more interested in this purple buff. They want the oracles. They want vision towards that Gold Fury. With a double ADC composition, probably the smart place to put your pressure.
Man, PBM really up there in the damage charts. 4K on the dot. Actually, fun little bit there, but 4,000 damage through. No's been using the Sunder aggressively early on in the game. Had like 1,000 in the first 2 waves or so, but Mike's been getting very active on this Atlas.
Yeah, Final K just dropped Scream speed. That's pretty rude, man. Like, didn't even let him get the XP.
Rude dude.
He just dropped it and said, hey, my level 12 is much more important than your level 12. Like, I will be, this is my farm. I mean, Final K's got a wave. Scream doesn't have a wave. He has to just clear camps to get his farm.
Look, Scream took Pagon's wave earlier on. So
Yeah, I suppose. I will say there's a 99% chance that Final K said, do you mind if I take your wave and Scream, or your speed? And Scream said, yeah, no problem. But still.
No, to me it feels like it'd be, yo, you mind if I take speed? And he's like, no, don't do that. I'm on my way there. It's like, oh, well, too late. It's already down. My bad, bro.
Well, it doesn't matter about speed buff because it looks like Gold Fury going to be started up. Remember, the Valks have vision on this, and Gamma's going to step up.
Fury to a quarter. Gamma not going to get picked up. Instead, Gold Fury was at least picked back up. Jade Dragons do get it, but the Earthshaker finds nobody. Rocket in from Panda Cat. Will slam into Kiermi. And it's another kill for the Jade Dragons. Make it 2. Because there's even one in the mid lane. Benny Q gets caught out by Scream, and now Tier 1 tower under threat by the Dragons as well.
Yeah, that's a massive swing in favor of the Dragons. Getting the Fury and 2 picks. With the Trebuchet in mid, it looks like the Pyromancer also going to be in the cards here. Remember, Final K has that Anvil of Dawn in case someone wants to step up, being maybe Aquarius at the back camps currently. But already you're starting to see the gold climb as Gamma takes a ton of damage from Final K, and that Tier 1 tower is also going to drop down. This lead, it didn't come out of nowhere, but a solid 5,000 off the backs of just one solid push, as well as a good back-to-back wand fights. The Jade Dragons certainly coming out swinging here. They did say, hey, because the Camelot Kings won, we gotta bring it up. You know, we cannot let ourselves fall out a second. We gotta make sure we get this win, and they're not pulling their punches.
The Final King clearly not. He's still slamming Gamma for a pretty penny of damage. That Runeforge and Glad Shield start out of Final K this time around. Wonder what he'll go into next. I think we've seen the Manticore spike pop up a couple of times for these Thor solos, for how few Thor solos we've been seeing, at least I should say, mostly from Final K and the Jade Dragon. So we'll see where the rest of his build progresses there. But in 5,500. Mike did this in mid.
He wants these beats so bad.
Mike was doing this in mid to Gamma. He was standing behind just like a vulture waiting for his opportunity.
Final K's coming too.
Out. Wowie, half HP, doesn't get the stun on Panda, who actually slams into the tower. And meanwhile, Final K dunks in, says, all right, well, if you guys won't get the kill, I guess I will.
Wowie's eyes got so wide. He's like, well, Mike dropped the ult, Panda Cat whiffed the ult, and oh yeah, there's a Thor here. Pagon was over clearing solo lanes.
Me?
I mean, there's nothing you can do there. I don't even blame him for not beadsing. He was going to get dove regardless, so probably a smart call just to not waste it. Final K is going to teleport in and save his own Tier 1 tower on the right side of the map, but you're never living that one. You just go. That's one of those Thor down. Like that's all you can say at the end of that one. Just they're like, oh, Thor? Oh, okay. So Pagon was clearing solo, and FineOK made that rotation over. And this is just dominant Jade Dragons. I mean, it's textbook, right? This is how they like to play the game. They're not pulling their punches, as I said, and they are consistently looking to fight.
I mean, if we load into a game, we took the player names and we took the team name at the top off, and you showed me this scoreboard and these picks, I'm calling this as Jade Dragons every single time. Mostly because nobody else is really playing Thor outside of the jungle besides them, but I mean, this is just the pacing that Jade Dragons love to set in every game they have the opportunity to do so.
Are you predicting the Pagon CERN, though? That is something that shocked me. I was not expecting it. It looks like Panda Cat.
Yeah, but nobody's playing Danza except for Panda
That's
Cat.
fair. That's fair. Out of everything, it looks like maybe going to be forced into that beats. Kiermi does have the Lord of the Afterlife, but he's not going to go for it.
Scream is here. Earthshaker aegis away by Pagon. Second veil opened up, and the rocket has made a swerving detour towards Gamma instead. Panda Cat chasing him out, but a good stun by Gamma will slow that one down. It'll slow Panda Cat down, maybe not Scream, who is still dashing forward aggressively. And FineOK dunks on a Benny Q, has nowhere to go. Wall will lock down Benny, and Polar Bear Mike will be the one to drop him with the Astrolabe. And did PBM just say thank you to FineOK?
He said, that's my kill. He said, that's all me. That's probably what he said, all me. Right as he stole with one bit of damage. And at least he's on the board, man. FineOK's got double his kills. Let the support get some. I think PBM's been getting real active. Part of 5 total kills. Yeah, he's not going to go all the way over to the right side of the map, but he's been doing a lot. I didn't think he deserved that last hit. And, you know, I'm going to say it. FineOK doesn't get that kill without him.
I don't know.
No, no way.
No.
The hammer would have missed. Benny Q would have juked it. Aegis it, walked
Dang,
away.
You're doubting the skill of FineOK that he missed
No,
the hammer?
I am praising the skill of Polar Bear Mike. He brought so much to that kill that FineOK certainly wouldn't have been able to get on his
FineOK's
own.
level 17?
He's got 3K in pocket, 2,500 in pocket.
Yeah, he's also got 3 levels on literally anybody on the Valkyries at this point. He's 7 levels ahead of Gamma. Good lord, the lead that FineOK has established, 2-0-3 on the Thor. 3.5 items deep into the build at this point, excluding the starter item at least. And FineOK is just going crazy on this Thor. And this is a pick. Anytime that I ever saw Thor get locked for the Jade Dragons, and this even when Sam was on the team, I'm sitting here going, man, I really want to see FineOK back on Thor. I remember when he was dominating with this pick in solo, and it would always just go to Sam, or it would always go to Scream. This is why I like seeing this pick for FineOK, because he is just W-keying into 3 people. He's gonna go on a Benny Q? Oh, I thought he was gonna dive onto Wowie at that point.
No, he just wanted to hit Benny and then hammer out. The beads were down. Pagon and Panda Cat are taking care of the objectives. When the carries do all the business, the tanks get to play. And in this case, I'm calling FineOK a tank. I mean, he's building that hybrid Thor that can still certainly 100-0, but if we saw how many abilities Benny Q and Wowie could cycle onto this Thor, it would probably still be an absolute ton.
That's rough. I just looked over at net worth chart that was brought up to us, and Mike is higher than every single player on the Valkyries. Maybe that changes here with the Pyromancer. It does. It at least puts one person
There we go, Aqua.
above PBM. Aqua now the most farmed on his team, still below almost everybody else, and Scream will Aegis out the roof, but an Earthshaker just a little too far off. Doesn't matter though, Aquarius has the damage to drop down Scream, but how's the fight on the top side going for Benny Q against the 2 tanks who are just destroying the mid laner? One more hit, and it's Panda Cat to seal the deal.
They still have their double ADC. Where do the Jade Dragons go next? It looks like Panda Cat is just going to channel that back, so not looking. Is he even hitting? Surely Wowie wasn't hitting autos there, because if so, it's looking rough. I mean, FineOK's HP did not move. He doesn't even care.
He dive on the Wowie. All right, Aegis, hammer out. All right, cool. FineOK. Oh my God, that wall! That wall still does so much. I know that the wall doesn't have a lot of. He's gonna go back in. He is gonna 2v1 these guys. If it's the last thing that he does, might be the last thing, as he instead decides to hammer away from the fight, maybe realizing that somebody else like Kiermi could show up, but. It's a level 18. No, he's not done.
Wowie,
he was just waiting until Wowie left Gamma's side. Almost solo kill. FineOK will get stunned out
His
by the
HP has not changed.
But FineOK is just undeterred, man.
That was an ultimate.
If he had ult, he would be dunking to Wowie right now.
100%. Who's going to stop him?
I bet he's wishing he had Blink right now. I bet he's wishing he had Blink so he could have gone past the minions and hammered to Wowie.
I mean, my point is, And again, I couldn't quite see if the damage was actually connecting, but Wowie has crit. It's just not enough damage to do really anything at the moment to find okay. He's teleporting over to right lane, it would seem, once his blue buff. I was curious where the Jade Dragons go next, because this kind of lead, when you're up over 10,000 without a Fire Giant, means you probably should be looking at a Fire Giant finally. The Jade Dragons are going to look at it. Damage it, that's a different question. They have not started that yet. They're looking at it.
I don't think they're going for fire. There's a sentry ward on the fire pit, like right on the outside. Surely the Valks know that this is happening. They do. Aquarius here, Gamma, Benny on the way. Wrapping around, though, is Kirimi at the bottom side of the fight. Keep your eyes on the Osiris, or maybe in the skies for Final K. Earthshaker, short, but does clip Pagon. Final K dunks on a Benny Q, and that's the end of the mid laner. Maybe the end of the mid lane for the Dragons. No, Pagon's still alive, but not for much longer. Aquarius takes him down, but it is an absolute bloodbath in the jungle, and it's the Valkyries who are losing most of theirs as Gamma chased down by Final K, wall off the mark, but the spin and the Scream is on point. Scream gets the double kill himself, and the Dragons can go to fire.
He certainly can't. Oh no, Final K said, you're not getting any tier 2 tower. Wowie, I'm still going to run you down wherever you go. Probably a smart call just to go for the Interceptor. As PBM and Panic Hat are going to start this Fire Giant. Do they wait 24 seconds for Pagon? I sincerely doubt it, but they are good teammates. Oh, Scream is on the way too. They're on fire. Look at his HP. Watch it.
It is not moving.
It didn't move once. Those were the shotgun crits, man. They are going to wait.
Well, okay, they gotta get 5 more seconds.
PBM.
I don't know if Mike can make it.
Can he hold out?
He's going quick. Get it.
He was laughing. He said, Daniel, I'll do anything for your Fire Giant. Don't you worry. If I die here, Pagon will still get this buff. You can tell the Jade Dragons are having fun, and it's unfortunate because the Valks really need a win if they're able to climb out of this bottom 2. And so far, game 1, not looking possible. But we've seen bigger comebacks, to be fair.
We did see a 20K yesterday.
We saw a 20,000 gold comeback very recently.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, so
almost twice.
there is still a possibility, but the Valks have to look towards their strengths. As of now, Benny Q was able to finish Soul Reaver. Wowie needs Pen. I mean, that has become abundantly clear to me.
I think he's on his way.
He's working towards it. He does not have it yet.
He's 4 levels down?
If he gets the Silver Branch, maybe Final K doesn't have a field day. You know, Final K has done double the damage of anyone on the side of the Valks thus far. So if he gets that Silver Branch before Phoenixes start to get looked at, he's hammering in at this point.
Yeah, Benny Q probably dead. No, does get a little bit of sustain back through. Does have tier 2 towards what I imagine is a soul gem. Gamma will be locked out. Actually, PBM opens the door for him. Wait, who's trapped in with who at this point? I think Gamma's stuck on his own regard there. As Mike and Final K just having a giggle. They're just roaming around the enemy base at this point. I mean, while the rest of their team is taking down towers.
Yeah, Pagon and Panda Cat. Oh,
Why
Benny
is he
Q.
back there?
He has Aegis at least, so there's no way he gets 100 to 0 off this ult.
So wow, you're Kirimi. Oh, it's down to Kirimi. Splits the uprights on both of them. Oh, he wanted to hammer, but he got mezzed, and now he couldn't. Instead, we'll use it to retreat. Earthshaker. Well, it shakes up the minions a little bit, but the Dragons will take down the left bird and fall back.
I mean, these tanks have been W keying, and Pagon and Panda Cat have just been on, like, structure duty. Go get the towers, let us have fun. Final K's padding the damage stats up at the Phoenix at this point. I was going to say tier 2, but well past it. As the Jade Dragons want to try and knock down these last 2 tier 2 towers, but they already got the left Phoenix, so openings have already been created. Good wall, going to catch out Wowie.
Oh no, Wowie. Wowie has just been W-keyed by Final K this entire game. Scream will get the killing blow. And a push back by the Valks. Aquarius, does he have the damage to take down Pagon? He does. That's another kill onto the mid laner for the Dragons, but Aquarius thrown to Scream. But Aquarius is still living through, not quite enough. As PBM shuts him down with the Gamma Ray Burst, but Final K is not done with his onslaught. Hammer and a spin does not connect onto Gamma. And finally, with the tier 2 and mid going down, the Dragons will back away.
Yeah, they have to, and they can't stay this much longer. They don't have that much sustain. The only hero we passed back and forth between PBM and Panda Cat, and it looks like Benny Q's more so focused on that mid wave, whereas Scream and Fino got the Pyroman. So this is absolute map domination, getting both neutral objectives at the same exact time.
17,500.
It's not at 20 yet. Once it gets to 20, that's when we can really figure out
Right.
if there's comeback potential here from the Valks. That right side, though, that's what needs to go down. I mean, that tier 2 tower and the Phoenix are still open, but Fire Giant for another 40 seconds, you have to imagine. Knock down that tier 2, reset for Fire Giant, and if you're the Valks, bunker down. I mean, put down your Vulcan turret at the Phoenix line and wait for those beads to come up, because BennyQ has been the primary target of FineOK's aggression, and if you were curious, he's building Deathbringer. FineOK is.
Excuse me?
Yeah, he's working on it.
No,
It's-
you're lying to me.
What else is
that's
it gonna
not,
be?
That's not real.
What do you think it's gonna be?
That's not a real item. No, this.
It is. And if
Oh
we
my
see
God.
if we see a crit from FineOK,
No.
I'm gonna jump out of my seat. Unfortunately for Benny, his beads are back up, so he could beads this, and he will.
Well, he'll beads, but beads doesn't save him from just raw damage that FineOK has.
He doesn't have crit yet.
It doesn't have crit yet. But do you think FineOK is sitting there going, guys, wait, hold on. How much gold in hand does FineOK have?
He just bought short swords, so he's pretty. Yeah, he needs another 600 more if he really wants to get Deathbringer. And he could also upgrade it because he doesn't have a glyph yet either.
Do you think he's sitting there actually saying, guys, I need like 6?
He's running to every
he's like,
camp on
he's
the
like,
map,
guys, I
so
need
you can
1,000
tell.
more gold before we end this game. I know I've got my starter done, but I need this death. You know that's what's going through his mind right now. He is laughing about this. He's like, guys, I'm so close to Deathbringer.
He's thinking about the YouTube short that he's about to put up.
no.
He just put one out that said what 10,000 hours of Thor looks like. It's going to say what Deathbringer Thor looks like in the SPL.
Oh, no.
Million
This is going to be the
views.
second time that he's run a crit on a god that shouldn't, and he's going to get a video because of it.
What do you mean? Crit on King Arthur is pretty cool.
Yeah, I know, and he got a whole video and a whole bit
There it
with
is. He
There's-
got it. He's online. Fire
Oh,
Giant
no.
Siege begins. Good clap on the Scream, though. Good damage, but he's going to hold on to the relics. Not too worried. Remember, left side bird is down. The Valkyries will have to deal with that. And Aquarius has not upgraded that teleport, so if he does show up, we'll have to put some extra gold into that relic if he wants to join the fight. Keep your eyes on the crits. I'm ready for them to start flying.
We'll have to see. I wonder how much those crits are actually going to be hitting for, because he doesn't have a ton of power in the build.
On carries, probably like 400, you got to think.
Okay, wow, he's like sitting on 140 power, 227 auto damage. So probably like 300 plus crits. We'll wait to see. Nope.
No.
Okay, 78 for regular.
Come on, get in there.
So if a regular crit, or if a regular shot does 78 on Aqua, I'm going to try and do math.
Well,
here.
we're not worried about Aqua. We need to see the carries. We need to see if Wowie and BennyQ
That's
get
so
auto.
rude.
That's what I'm looking for
That's
because
such a rude wall.
he's got so much prods. You know, we'll worry about that as we go. But left side Phoenix did spawn in. The Valks are bunkered down on S5. This is the strongest fight they're going to get for a while because they don't have to worry about fire minions for a little bit. The Jade Dragons are playing patiently, though. Those fire minions are eventually going to pour in, and I think they'll probably wait for that.
I think the Phoenix hits harder than maybe some of the carries do against FineOK at this point. We'll see if he ever gets to throw one of those autos against the Valks. Hammer in, only taps up against Gamma. BennyQ is completely out of the fight already. Throws out the Earthshaker, and it tickled Mike. Mike will get probably more healing back from the Fire Giant in just a moment.
Oh, 300.
We're in. 300 on Kirmi. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe those crits were coming from Panda Cat. FineOK in the sky. Where will he dunk down? It's on top of Wowie. Quick beads and Aegis from the carry of the Valks. A wall to cut off the path. Gamma nowhere to go. FineOK gets one. And now it's a death for Kirmi. Aqua takes down Pagon yet again, but Scream returns the favor, dropping the solo of the Valks.
Yeah, FineOK is going to head back and teleport in. It looks like that left side Phoenix is going to drop down here shortly. As Wowie was able to stop the teleport and Scream's going to the back line.
He said, please God, keep FineOK away from me as long as I can't Scream. Whoa, Aegis quickly
Arianos,
stay away,
there it
but
is.
the lob shot from Wowie will drop the jungler of the Jade Dragons. Earthshaker is back, Earthshaker is down. FineOK goes over towards BennyQ, doesn't pour it into the hammer, instead it's just a drop of the Phoenix. And the Jade Dragons will now leave their fight as they've already removed once more the left side Phoenix and mid-bird being destroyed by the Trebuchet alone.
The Trebuchet does not need your help, but FineOK will do the honors of getting the last hit here with Panda Cat helping out. Pretty low, though, and the hammer gets stopped!
FineOK, almost down. No, a crit didn't go through for Wowie, and FineOK lives?
Maybe.
You gotta be kidding me. BennyQ
Backfire, Meatball.
wants to get this one, but
Oh.
Meatball just a little too shy. FineOK gets the hammer up in time. The Jade Dragons are out. And Charlie, we're past 20K now. We're at 23K. But the Valks are down 3 Phoenixes.
They are.
And
the
a lot.
The Primal Fury is going to come through here. I got to say, all things considered, Aquarius is kind of going crazy. I mean, this man is getting the back line.
Doing good.
And he's killing the carries, and that's his only job. So, like, Pagon has been the target of this Bologna. And Scream, good CC. I think Wowie is actually getting enough damage
he
to
got
threaten
malicious.
the tankers. He's got his malicious Deathbringer now, and his temporal beads. I'm just, it's more fun to watch, but Mike has 4,000 gold. What does an Atlas do with 4,000 gold? Well, he buys a
Emperors.
Jade Emperor's crown. And what else is he
And
gonna
the
get?
Shogun? Did he just full buy 2 items on back?
I mean, he had 4,000, and he was close. He got his upgrade relics. Why not? At this point,
Wait.
you're playing with house money.
He's actually full build, relics and all.
Now let's look at Gamma's build.
330.
Ooh.
Yeah, Gamma's still 2 behind.
Gamma's got 3 items and an upgraded starter.
Yeah, he's a little bit behind. Maybe just a smidge behind. Final K walls away, Gam. Oh, no. Final K is just hunting for anything at this point.
Benny's got no beads.
Down Benny. He's probably looking for wow. No, he'll dunk on top of Gamma. Spin. Dash away for Gamma. Final K gets the wall on 2. Double tap hits 2, but Kirmi is isolated. And Kirmi will go down. Final K with the rampage. PBM snags the last hit onto Aquarius. A teleport in for Final K.
The wall.
A wall to block off Benny and Wowie. Final K wants those crits, but we're not going to see a single one come out this time around. Maybe onto Wowie. Final K loses the boxing match. He's not happy about that one, but he might be happy that the Jade Dragons should walk in and end game number 1.
I think he just wanted a crit and didn't get one, so that's why he's so upset. This is one of those games where you just got to end. And if you're a Valks fan or if you're on the Valks, short memory, right? You just need to bounce back in game number 2. There was not a lot to take from this game. I think the objective play, as well as just the all-out aggression. If Kirby finds that first blood and gets out, or just finds it a bit more clean, maybe the whole trajectory of the game changes a bit. But this is one of those games where I think you don't take too much from it. You just try and move on.
I'm going to be honest, Charlie. I forgot the first blood happened.
Well, I mean,
that was like 30 minutes ago,
Yeah.
and like my memory is like 2 minutes prior. Like
Yeah.
that. Like that's where I'm at right now. I'm still just blown away by the performance that the Jade Dragons put on. Obviously, these guys needed a win. They started off here a good one in game number 1 for the Dragons. We'll see if the Valks bounce back, or can the Dragons keep it going to game 2 right after this.
Well, the Dragons with a very convincing win, although a couple of bumps in the road, end up taking game number 1. Now Mifflin, they're 1 game away from securing themselves second seed in the playoffs, as well as potentially knocking the Valkyries' hopes for 6th place out of there. And again, when game number 1 starts out a little bit more Valkyrie-sided, let's call it, right? Kiermi gets 2 kills. They get things rolling on their side. And I had to take a visual snapshot of that 2-1 because that 2-1 quickly became 5-2 on the other side, and it didn't slow down much after that. It was the Dragons once again kind of turning up the heat.
Yeah, I mean, classic Jade Dragons tempo in this one, just able to really dominate throughout the early. So no surprise from me. Jade Dragons, once they get rolling, stay rolling.
And you know what?
Yeah.
It's because they look really good.
Is that why?
Of course, the Valkyries look really good too, so maybe that's not it, right?
So it's
because
not
they look
that.
really good because they're wearing some jerseys you'll never get. What I forgot to do, and now I'm going to remind you so you don't forget to do it, put on or buy one of your favorite jerseys, which you can get at Smite Pro League, or shop.smiteproleague.com or shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL. Of course, if you go to smiteproleague.com, then there's going to be a link there for you as well to be able to go pick up a jersey of your favorite team out there.
Which one's your favorite?
Of the jerseys or my favorite team?
Yeah.
I don't have a team that I think is my favorite. Jersey-wise, I really like the... Oh, man, if there was like a shade... I'll be honest with you. If there was like a shade of purple for me personally that was between the Kings and the Dragons, I think that would probably be like the perfect shade for me. I do really actually like the green on the Scarabs and the blue of the Valkyries, though. So maybe one of those two. I don't know. It's kind of hard to choose. All of them is maybe the right answer. Because the rest of them all actually they just look really good. And of course, again, you can go to either of those websites, shop.smiteproleague.com or shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL, and you can pick up one of those jerseys. And thanks to Skulls for making the players look good, and of course, by proxy, making anybody who buys any of those jerseys also look really good. And the Dragons, while the Valkyries look good, look a little better, not just because of the jerseys, but because of the gameplay in this one. And like you said, they just kind of do the Jade Dragons thing. There's not too much that's really crazy about it.
Well, I mean, I would argue
Except
standout
their picks.
performance, probably fine okay. I really loved everything I saw from the Thor. At times, I thought it was a legitimate role swap. But no, he was just Mr. Worldwide everywhere on the map at all times. Dunking duo lane, rotating back towards mid, poking out Benny, then eventually teleporting to his own lane, clearing out a couple of waves there as well. So maybe standard for the Jade Dragons, but extraordinary in regards to the entirety of the league is just this hyper-aggressive playstyle that continually finds success for them, be it through hyper-aggressive rotations or individual plays. I'm remembering Pagon at like second rotation of blue buff, solo invading it on his own after a team fight. Low-key goes the Valkyries. They get to rotate back towards their blue and like, oh, Pagon's here, and he got it, and he got away. Tough situation, right? So,
Yeah.
Jade Dragons, I mean, the onus is really on legitimately every other team in the league to figure out how to beat this strange, just run it down style.
So far, it's been very difficult to do, right? I mean, those standings showcase that more than anything. Only 3 set losses so far that the Dragons have had. If they get another game like that when you have a 6-1-15 Thor, a 9-1 there for Scream, it's going to be a lot more difficult for anybody, and you're looking at maybe a 10-3 split for them if they can do that again in game number 2. Again, for the Kings, right now, hoping, at least the 6 of them, maybe a couple others, all their fans as well, the Dragons, from here on, they slip on something and just trip because they do not want a game like that, and they need the Valkyries to win in order for the Kings to overtake them in second place. That's kind of maybe where the Dragons are at. Like you said, Scream earlier saying that he was going to have to take it a lot more seriously since the Kings had won their set earlier today. The Valkyries needing to lock things down and turn things around because otherwise you're looking at a team that is not only ousted from the playoffs, but then after Sunday, legitimately, we will not see them until the first weekend in January. It'll be over a month that this team won't be playing in the competitive setting. Granted, for a lot of the SPL teams, that's going to be mostly true, just because of when playoffs happens versus when that first Worlds qualifiers happens versus when Worlds actually happens. We'll see, though. The Valkyries can keep their dreams alive here. Picks and Bans game number 2. The Dragons are keeping things very similar to game 1. Not only are they first pick once again, but they ban out the Cupid. Last time I remember the Daji being up there, as well as the tier. So some options for him, especially leading into what the Kernanos first pick. If you're the Valkyries, the Umoja, the Hades, that was the same as last time. But do you change bans? Do you go for anything that was picked up by the Dragons, or was that all just off kilter enough that you're willing to let it through?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at any individual pick that the Jade Dragons had and said, that's it. That's what they played through. That's what made it work, right? It's not like CERN mid does anything that other pressure picks can't do, or Thor's the only global god that Fine OK is going to take into the soul lane, or Atlas was the progenitor of a lot of that aggression. So I think the Valkyrie's probably right to stick with their bans in the top 3. But once we get to the second phase of bans, I wouldn't be surprised to see some adaptations there to maybe adjust what the Jade Dragons would likely go towards. Otherwise, I mean, the Valkyries draft wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe you hold off on Benny's pick a little bit longer so that he can get a counter pick matchup or something that can deal with the aggression that the Jade Dragons are rolling with a little bit more easily. Vulcan felt like it was very easy to dive at points. Or you could just take the Atlas in the second slot, not only acting as a strong pick for Gamma, but also essentially just a 4th ban.
Glory to Athens.
Well, I was going to say limit, Mike. They immediately lock in the Athena on the side of the Dragons. Will mention Coach is Cherio, so we have seen Athena in solo. We've seen Athena in jungle, and with Cherio as a coach, you can almost imagine that, yeah, Athena jungle sounds pretty good sometimes. But lately we've been seeing it a lot more in that support role. And with the Scylla locked in, this Kernanos is going to be a Panda Cat pick, unless they're throwing this over to Fine OK for some reason. And seems like Pagon will be on a very standard mage, especially one that's kind of on the rise here in the last week of Phase 3.
Yeah, I mean, some buffs to Scylla recently, I think very strong. It's the conjunction of the Sands of Time buff, now giving a little bit additional damage on wave, as well as Scylla's Crush also doing additional damage to minions again. So that means that your clear has gotten a lot better. That was the general weakness of Scylla, even when she was meta, was, well, you're not really one-shotting archers until like level 7 anyway. Nowadays, that phase of the game comes a little bit more quickly, and it's a bit of an easier transition for Scylla. And she always will be and always has been just a late-game behemoth with her damage output and some of the passives that she gets, giving her additional power. So I think no surprise that Scylla has at least peeked her head back in the meta. Whether or not this is going to be a consistent pick as we start to get closer and closer to Worlds, to be determined. But this was one of the classic answers to Scylla. The Sentinel, the dash rather, or the leap from Scylla, so telegraphed to throw out that ward essentially. Then you leap to it. It's a very long range jump. Takes a little while to travel through the ground. Very easy for a gravity surge to follow that one up. So not only that, also has the ability to fight on top of Scylla if she drops Feather or Crush on her feet. Feather Step's a really good way to immune that damage. So a Willish, I think, needs to perform here, but already has some okay matchups.
Yeah, and plus you have the Atlas to help with some of that setup. So it feels like it'll be a good one. Top 3 again for both Kernanos, Athena, Scylla for the Dragons, Ishtar, Atlas, a Wheelish for the Valks. Second phase of bans come through. Thor and Naja banned away by the Valkyries to limit the Jade Dragons a little more. On the other side, it's mid lane matchups as their target, trying to limit, as you called him, the Big Differ himself. Vulcan and the Agni banned away.
Gore, I don't call him the Big Differ, okay?
You referenced someone.
That is a title bestowed upon him by the court of public opinion. I am simply a mouthpiece.
In fact, do you remember when we had the graphic for him? I think that was that during the qualifier? We threw up like a thing with him and the stars.
Oh, like the literal constellation?
Yes, we had like the literal constellation.
Okay.
No,
I don't
think
remember
I distinctly remember having to explain it to Dave because he said, "Oh yeah, the Big Differ," and then he looked at it and he was kind of like making this face. It's like because it's the Big Dipper.
That's right.
That's that was the play.
Yeah, it's the star formation that looks like Ohio.
Yeah. Does it look like Ohio?
Which one's the one with the panhandle?
I think you're
Oklahoma.
thinking of. Yeah, Oklahoma.
Yeah, you know.
But
public schools failed me, man.
Yeah, honestly, same. So doesn't change too much. Still waiting on the Valks. Surprise, we went off the rails that much, and there's not any new picks to discuss. They are thinking heavily about this. 30 seconds left in their bank time. This is where we normally see, in this case, what? Another pick would probably be their solo lane. Normally, Biniki holds on to his pick. And so, maybe surprising me, because I was thinking we were going to be waiting for something out of solo. No, we're getting the Raw back for Benny.
Yeah, I mean, considering the amount of dive that we associate with the Jade Dragons, regardless of composition, these guys play aggressively, they'll play in your tower, and they still have 2 more picks that can really, really get active towards mid. Surprised that Benny, in the situation that he found himself in Game 1, goes into P's and B's for Game 2 and says, you know what? Give me something that's a little bit less mobile. Give me something that really can't avoid anything, right? Like, I know Backfire is not a whole lot of movement, but it's too much, all right? Give me the Raw. I mean, he's good on the pick. It's got a good amount of burst from a range, a little bit of healing as well. But Lancelot locked in, that closes gap pretty easy. You've got already pretty decent dive from the Athena. Dash taunt should find Ra pretty consistently. Guan Yu's gonna run you down on a 4-legged horse, you know, like maybe something with a leap or a dash could have been pretty cool there. But instead, we got the Egyptian god of the sun.
Like you said, he's good on the pick and he does a lot of damage. We'll see how much of that damage actually gets to be out there throughout game number 2. I will also give a shout out to the Dragons for making our lives maybe a little easier. Because, in theory, this is one of the most standard compositions we've gotten to see from them. In fact, if I remember how we list the teams, they might have managed to lock it in. I think in-game they actually go solo to carry. But when we list them like on the picks and bans graphic, I believe we start Hunter, support, mid, jungle, solo. And that it feels like that's exactly where everything on the Dragons is going, where it's locked in. Yeah, oh no, sorry, we list them inverse of all that. So now there's egg on my face.
No. No egg on your face, bud.
No, you're right. I just was wrong.
It happens to the best of us. Let's
Either
talk
way,
about
yeah,
Raven.
inverse,
You know?
ask
me about the Raven.
What do you think about the Raven?
I think it's going in the soul lane, probably. It feels like it's not going to be in a wheelish solo, so Raven up against Guan Yu. I mean, I don't want to be Raven in that matchup personally. Wouldn't choose that for myself, but I mean, you're not going to die. You've got ways to avoid the stun. A little bit sustain, you know, on wave. Not the worst thing. Dive potential, if you're trying to like match rotations with Guan Yu, the ability to close gap on a Wasilla is pretty decent. It's not as easy as Guan Yu's job, close a gap on a Ra, because Scylla's got a jump and a CC and ultimate that doesn't lock her in place. But, I mean, Raven can do it.
Mifflin, I'm starting to think that you might not be a big fan of that Ra pick.
I love Ra as a pick. I don't love Ra
into this comp.
Being picked there.
Yeah, he's always really fun to watch, but it depends on the scenarios he gets put in. Like you said, feels like things might be a little troublesome for the Ra. The Raven locked in there, like you said, maybe going to struggle if it's in solo. Wheelish solo doesn't necessarily
That'd be worse.
entice you too much.
We don't want that.
So do you think, I mean, you had mentioned the Wheelish having a good-ish, at least a good enough matchup into the Scylla. Are some of those small, like, little counters enough to counter out some of the heavy losses that you think the Valkyries have taken here?
If the Valkyries pull an early lead, you're not really concerned about dive coming your way, right? It's more so, hey, we're getting aggressive, we're playing around our CC, Searing Pain's always going to be that initiation tool. Just start the damage right, start the fight right. That said, I think a lot of it really does fall on the back of both Gamma and Kirmi. Those two are the ones you're looking to have a good performance in the early.
Well, we'll have to see. Can Gamma and Kirmi do it? The Valk's 6th place hopes all rely on this game. Same for 2nd place for the Dragons. If they win, they can take that. We'll find out with J-Mac and Trelly in game number 2.
Yeah, that's right. It is 1 game away for the Jade Dragons of securing their 2nd seed. 1 game away from knocking the Valkyries out of top 6 contention. It all comes down to, can the Jade Dragons keep up that same momentum from game number 1 into this game that we jump into now? Game 2 between the Dragons and the Valkyries. The Dragons definitely want to try and win this one out. And I think right to highlight on the desk, might be the most standard composition that we have seen from the Dragons in recent time. Maybe not so standard of picks necessarily, but we didn't have to really play a guessing game this time, Charlie. We didn't have to go, okay, well, where's this one god going to go versus another? Jade Dragon's definitely playing a bit more normalized in this one.
And that just makes me sad. I mean, I want to be guessing. I want to have no clue where all 5 picks on the side of the Dragons are actually going. And we clearly knew. I mean, once we saw every single pick here, it became extremely clear what the game was going to be, and that's fine because I think there are still some decent opportunities to get aggressive. The Lancelot from Scream, something that has a tremendous amount of die potential. If Pagon is able to reset on I'm a Monster, they still have a ton. But looking at what the Valks are able to go for here, the double assassin from Aquarius and Kirmi, it's going to bring a ton of early damage, but also that safety that we were talking about in game number 1 is not going to be there. That Bologna and Osiris that were there for the Valks, it gets, you're trading out a bit more damage for a little less of that safety, especially if Final K is going to be on point with the Guan Yu. The sustain really starts to add up. Going to be annoying, but you're not looking to get active early unless, of course, you're following around Kirmi on this Awilix, because I think there is tremendous kill potential, but Scream actually the one to blink to the back line.
Yeah, blinks, dashes through Kirmi, but unfortunate for Scream. Ooh, there's a heal there at Gamma. One more shot could have been the end of his life. Fortunate for him, he's able to squeak back into the jungle, get back to safety, and resustain with some of those health potions. But again, unfortunate for Scream that he's fighting into a Raw, which means that healing going to be picked up level 2, and that means that BennyQ and Kimber will both be fine sitting under that beam.
Yeah, they've got plenty of sustain and the health pot, multi-pot combo. Just make sure you can even use your heal aggressively to clear the way of things like that. So Pagon is going to have to hold the crush until after the heal, and still, you're going to be losing a lot of minions to the tower, that sort of thing. And it looks like splitting up the mid camps actually are Kirmi and Benny is spending one for the left ones as well. This is annoying to deal with because you can't really just go for one. You're like, oh, they're on right, so we go left. They got both. That's going to slow a bit of the damage that Pagon and, of course, Scream are able to do. They're just going to have a little bit behind in XP, and not get their ults online as early, that sort of thing. It does start to add up, especially on this Scylla. There was a buff, of course, to her too. Her early clear is a little bit better, but you want to try and get as quickly as you can to that late game, so every bit of farm matters.
I'll be keeping my eyes on Scream on this Lancelot throughout the early stage. Now, first blood in game 1 happened on this right side. It's a blink from Kirmi, secured blue, and once again, potential 2v2 knockdown, drag out fight between them. Kirmi pushed away by Scream, and maybe not the ideal direction through. Good overhead kick. Actually dismount Scream from the horse. That could have been a further chase down. And it will fizzle out after the blue is taken away.
Good call. Both mid laners were able to solo out their red buffs. In the meantime, Pagon actually dashing in here. Feels like he can win the poke trade. NEQ's going to answer back. Just a little tough brotherly love, Dash in, just make sure Benny's on point, Damage check, if you will. But the sustain should be just fine. And as we expected, the Ra is going to hit level 5 first, just by nature of getting those mid camps. It's going to take a bit. I think it's not a counter matchup, but I think BennyQ is going to have a lot easier of a time landing these ultimates, especially if you're ulting the wave. But onto specifically the Scylla, because you can just stay back, wait for I'm a Monster, wait for that slam to come through, and just get the ult off every single time. That's probably Benny's play. Get as much damage as you can, and just go for the snipe opportunities off of Pagon.
Yeah, it feels like that was kind of the mentality when gods like Raijin were really meta, was you pick gods with these really quick, really easy snipes like Thoth or Scylla. And you just wait for Raijin to go up like on his drums. He's sitting there banging the drum, but he's moving at like a snail's pace, and so it sets up an easy snipe. So we'll see if that ends up being the play from BennyQ up against Pagon in the mid.
And it should be.
Should. I mean, easy target for him. It takes a while to get through that I'm a Monster animation.
Yeah, and Mifflin was talking about the amount of space that Scream and Final K can really control with the horses. Like, they can go so far into the backside. Scream actually is going to get knocked up, but the ult is not going to come through. Scream will be able to get out of there. Holds on to the snipes. It's not up just yet. BennyQ would love to go for it. It's up in a couple seconds. If he could just keep Scream around it, he's not going to be able to. That's Searing Pain. Unfortunately, just will not come off of cooldown in time.
Low health bars for Wowie and Gamma, but now Kirmi flanking in to Panicat. Quick ult from Mike. Gets him out of dodge real quick. Panicat wondering what just happened. He's like, man, Kirmi showed up, and then nothing happened. Just Kirmi showed up, and they even used Wowie's ult to try and hit PVM. Not sure if they were trying to get him before he could get into the Defender of Olympus animation, or just seeing if they can get some damage on this Athena before he ported away.
Yeah, it seemed like they were looking for Panicat, and once the ult came through, they realized the mitigations were going to be too much for either of them to find a kill. So they decided to back off. Probably the smart call. They didn't want to waste too much, and Kirmi holds onto the blink and that ultimate. Good for Aquarius, though, was able to confirm that blue buff. I was wondering where, because on this at Wheelix, you do want to get active early. You sort of have a responsibility to try and find as much damage as you can in the early, whereas Scream is fine just scaling. And of course, Wheelix still does have plenty of time to do damage as the game goes on, but Kirmi's stuck at level 5. He spent a bit trying to gank the left side of the map, got nothing from it. Just ticks over to level 6, so Scream will have a level in the jungle, as well as that aggression, stacking up the Transcendence. Once that gets online, you got to imagine this landslide is looking to fight.
Now, I know that we saw, buff to Sands at time. That makes it pretty common for a lot of the mid lane starters. We do see Conduit Gem instead for Pagon in the mid. But then, slight buff to Chronos Pendant and just the cost reduction onto it. But Charlie, how do you feel about Chronos Pendant on Scylla specifically? It's not giving you a ton of stats. You get decent power and some MP5. And obviously the cooldown reduction that comes with it. But do you feel that Chronos Pendant is a Scylla item?
It can be. I think that Chronos Pendant is just one of the best mage items you can go for if you just want to spam your abilities. It's just going to give you even more than 20% CDR because of the cooldown resets. But Conduit Gem, Chronos Pendant, just a decent start. If you're trying to get through the early game, Aquarius is going to be absolutely gone. You can see Final K was in range of a snipe, but BennyQ did not let it go through. Beautiful gank. Both the horses down. Unfortunately, Mystic Rush not enough to get Aquarius out. But I think Conduit Gem, Chronos Pendant, just a great early start. If you have struggles with your clear or your farm speed, it's just a good combo to make sure you get out of that early.
I just thought, they only drafted 2 of the horses for the Jade Dragons. They could have drafted all 4 of them. We'll hold on to that for the moment, though. BennyQ under fire by Mike and Screamin'. Damage is just a little bit too much for the Raw to handle it. And this was some of the downsides the desk was talking about. Look at this early I'm a Monster already clipping for about 400 plus on Kirmi. Now force the Wheelish back. I think the Jade Dragons could have gone full force with the horse team. They could have got, added the Hachiman in there and then get a Chiron as well. They should have gone the full way.
Surely Chiron doesn't count as a horse.
He's part horse.
I mean, the horse team implies that Final K uses the ultimate.
Is Chiron not a horse?
Scream uses the ultimate, and then Hachiman uses the ultimate. Chiron's ult is not horse-themed. It's Centaurus. It's just the shots. I want to see...
Smart horse. Okay, and then even excluding Chiron, then still, they could have gotten
you're right,
more.
and I would have been fine with that. The triple horse squad with Hachiman, that dive would be insane. And of course, you're right to highlight, if Pagon was on Chiron, and he was sniping while the dive was happening, we could call it the quad horse team. That's fine by me. But I was thinking the ultimate dive from the horse team would be of those 3.
I'd actually love to see all 3 charging in at once. Just like that. Well, except Final K dismounts it a bit early. Still getting some good pressure onto Aquarius in the solo. He's going for a little bit of a stranger start. Got the tier 1 earrings, gets him some MP5 in lane. Then immediately goes into Soul Eater after, so a little bit of sustain for himself to match what Final K has. Should be good early, but I'm curious as to where the rest of the build goes for Aquarius.
Yeah, probably the Glad Shield, just the hybrid style Robin, maybe a hard magical defense item, a Pestilence, something like that. And that just helps you brawl, right? You can go on to Scylla, immune the ultimate, try and find as much dive potential as possible. Good ultimate there from Pagon to immune the grab from Gamma, and also get a little poke back. Trying to hang on to those beads of the name of the game. You want to make sure you're always having those, but because of the way that Aquarius is itemized, puts himself very squishy. Fine, okay. Still able to do a ton of damage here. And Scream and Kirmi close by. They're always within blinking distance of this solo lane, it would seem. I'm not going to go for any kills, just grabbing that Totem of Coup and going back to farm.
Totem of Coup being split pretty nicely between the 2 solo laners. A 3-2 split for those ones being taken down. Mike going to try and delay this red buff a little while, but now that BennyQ's shown up, not a chance that Mike's able to steal that one away. You might want to be careful because there are 4. Well, now only 3. BennyQ just decided to go farm with the green buff instead. Could have been 4 versus Mike, especially if they could have found a pick onto him. He has once again gone for that Sunder. I mean, this is old school Mike tech. I mean, back in the day, you ask Mike, what are the 2 relics you go? You call Blink and Sunder every single time. He's got the Sunder. Now we'll see if he goes Blink.
And with Athena, you've essentially solved the problem of Sunder, which is I stay missing that relic. We are seeing some ultimates traded here. Panda Cat does not want to use the beads, and wow, he's going to dash in.
But ultimate in from Mike. Couple more jukes from Panda Cat.
Oh!
Not enough. Mike gets there. just in time. Actually does Sunder Wowie. Dash in, second Sunder, taunt, needs a little bit more. And Pagon with the I'm a Monster. Perfect timing for Mike to hold out. And now maybe a kill onto Kirmi, not dismounts off of Suku, a charge in with the joust, but Scream needs a little more damage. And he's not gonna find it to pull and a yank back in, but unfortunately pulled him right back to his own death. Good snipe from Benny to trade it out. It's 2 for 2 across the board, maybe now 3. Benny Q, body blocked by Mike, taunted into the cavalry charge, but Final K doesn't have the damage nor the HP to continue tanking that up.
I mean, beautiful snipes there by Benny Q. A bit unfortunate that Kirmi pulls Scream into that kill, but we gotta give credit over to Wowie. Getting a solo kill onto Panicat in the CERN v Ishtar matchup. Not always easy, and I'm gonna call it a bit greedy. Panicat probably should have just beads that ult, would have been able to trade or at least get away from the Sunlight Swords, but decided to just brawl with him, and you're losing that trade, even with the mitigations from Mike. Panicat loses that one, and that's got to be a confidence booster over the Valks. Hey, you got an ADC who's able to win a 1v1 at the very least, a 1v2 with the mitigations from Athena. Try and play through the Ishtar. That's the only option you got currently, and the gold not looking so bad. The Jade Dragon's only up about 300 so far.
About 1500 XP, but a fight breaking out. Blink from Pagon, picked up by Gamma. Sunsword slam, and so does I'm a Monster, but Wowie will be just fine. Scream, use the joust to get himself out, finds a double knockback, but doesn't have the health to stand up to Benny Q, who will heal under his own glow. And now PBM surrounded by 5. The Valkyries route in 2 kills, and the Jade Dragon's on the back foot.
Yeah, you got to imagine that was a little bit greedy, and now the Valks are going to be able to grab a free Gold Fury off of that aggression. The dash in to the blink, and I'm a Monster, a little bit off the mark, was aiming for Gamma, wasn't able to find it. Probably just a little bit too much. I think the Jade Dragons recognize that, and more so, the Valks are able to answer back in a huge way. Benny Q sitting at 2-1, going to be able to get some more itemization online, and that gold is going to help out just about everyone. And you can tell, I mean, Final K's been making these rotations, but Aquarius has always been close behind, trying to match that as well. The Valks, I mean, they're not giving up without a fight, and now they've got themselves about a 700 gold lead. Look towards the Pyromancer on the right side of the map. Neither team set up for it just yet, but the Jade Dragons probably don't want to let another relic, or another objective rather, go for free.
Good route by Panda, but Wowie is still there. PBM a little bit late on the rotation to maybe try and help take Gamma down. With that Fury and a couple of picks to the Valks, as you say, now a slight lead, at least over to the Valhalla Valkyries. Not very much, though. That's something to keep in mind, at least as it goes through. But I think you're right to say, to play through the duel, I mean, Wowie's been having a decent game, a decent performance so far in both of these matchups against the Jade Dragons. And now with that confidence boost that he got for getting the solo kill on Panda, could be a good idea to play around the Ishtar. But it seems that for the Jade Dragons, their answer is to play through Pagon in this mid lane. Constant pressure onto Benny Q.
Yeah, trying to make sure this Raw is always watching his positioning. I mean, Benny's speeds are going to be back up in about 5 seconds, so maybe a pull on to the Pyromancer or a pull on to Polar Bear Mike. He's going to taunt to make sure that one doesn't go through, but Kirmi doesn't feel like ulting it, but looks like Art's going to let PBM get out for now. Final K's got the teleport in, though, and maybe Gamma's going to be the target here.
Sunder hits Gamma, blink in now. Gamma running as fast as he can go. Ult in from PBM. Aquarius is stuck in place. Overhead kick will not save his life. Still holding on to that ultimate throughout the entire duration of that. Tier 1 tower under threat. The ult from Benny Q takes away the archers, but now what about his own health? I'm a Monster. And the crush both ages and beads away. The mid laner for the Valks under fire by the Dragons, but it's the Tier 1 tower that falls at the end.
Yeah, that looks like the Dragons will be able to grab that Pyromancer as well. Kirmi a little bit too far away and would rather just farm up. Aquarius would have loved to be a bit more tanky. I mean, was CC'd, used the overhead kick, and then got stuck. Was not able to use that Mystic Rush to get out. I think the dive from the Jade Dragons would have been able to catch him anyways because Scream was holding onto that jousting field. Just a good fight throughout, as well as great setup from PBM. You're able to get both relics off of this Raw, and that does start to add up here. As Kirmi taunted him but stays on Suku, so should be just fine. I don't think Final K is going to be using the cavalry charge to dive a tier 2 tower this early on. But because of the aggression from PBM, because of the taunts from this Athena, I'm looking towards Benny Q, and I'm thinking you got a solid 115 seconds of playing as far back as you can. Because one taunt into a crush, you're getting close to death there.
Soul Gem up for both mid laners. Divine Ruin for Pagon versus Sphere of Desolation for BennyQ. So a little bit more raw damage, at least out of the raw. A little bit of anti-heal to provide for the Jade Dragons up against the sustain that's through.
When you said raw damage, I thought you clearly meant raw as damage.
Oh, no,
You
just
meant raw,
R-A-W, yeah.
For the raw.
For the raw, R-A.
I mean, that's nice. The fact that you said and had to clarify, it got me.
I had to make sure everybody else knew.
Yeah, but I'm a little slow, so I'm assuming all of chat got it. It was just me who didn't understand. But the blink hit on the Panic Cat.
This is an easy pick, potentially for the Dragons, or maybe just an easy disengage for the Valkyries. PBM gets the taunt onto Kirmi. Sunder hits Kirmi as well. A little bit more damage necessary, but not going to find it this time around. As the full rotation now with Pagon on the way. Remember, blink on Scylla. No Aegis to deal with BennyQ's Raw. No Aegis to deal with the Robin or anything else that's thrown out from the Valks. So keep your eyes on Pagon. Teleport throughout. Blink in by Scream. Engaged by Fine-OK. On to BennyQ. Use the snipe, but misses wide left. Pagon goes out of the ultimate. Beads to get away. Does get a little bit of healing back. Now Panic Cat low. Kirmi takes that one. It's a 1-for-1 trade so far. But Wowie is low. Scream is low. Aquarius is still full HP,
Beautiful
but great
taunt
taunt by Mike to pull 2 away. And it's Fine-OK to take down Wowie. And now the Jade Dragons on retreat as most of them are at low HP.
Yeah, Mike has got some great setup as well as peel for his team, but Gamma and Aquarius are sticking around. Remember, Pagon's very low and doesn't have the beats. Probably smart. Then he just decides to get out because Kirmi's on the way back. And this Awelix would love to try and find a pull. That ultimate is available if Gamma can find anyone. And Mike dashes away, does not want to be pulled back in to the clutches of Kirmi. Probably a smart call. The Primal Fury spawned in. Don't want to be losing anyone else. Just back up for the full reset there. But all things considered, a great fight for the Valks to try and just get a pick and equal up and make sure that the Jade Dragons aren't climbing ahead too far. And that was all from the aggression from Kirmi onto Panic Cat. Both the relics going to be down for 70 seconds on the beads, another 100 or so on the Aegis. They got to be careful. The CERN's got to watch the positioning towards this objective.
I saw a very slight emotion come from Pagon whenever he popped that crush out of range of the green buff. He's like,
Yeah.
well, oops. Guess I'll have to wait till the next rotation. And luckily for him, he's got a lot of CDR in the build already, so he doesn't have to wait too long for the Sikkim Crush combos to come back online. It's a Sunder and then a Bracer for Mike. I want to see the Blink Sunder that Mike used to hype up so much. But for now, it's just going to be the Sunder and the Bracer. Aquarius will ult over the blue buff wall. Scream will gallop around the wall with the Joust. Slows down Aquarius. One more hit. I'm a monster. Just there in case Scream happens to miss the shot, but Scream doesn't miss those. Maybe the Valks can respond in kind, though, with a Primal Fury to their name.
Will the Fire Giant be the call here for the Jade Dragon? Seems like immediately yes. But BennyQ is close by. PBM gonna have to play zone duty because this Raw has tremendous steal potential. Remember, I'm a Monster is down, and BennyQ just walked over a ward.
He did. Here's Fine-OK to try and stop this one. Ultimate in just too early from BennyQ. The Jade Dragons get the Fire Giant for themselves. Almost a dangerous play for them, but unfortunately for the Valks, Benny just a little too early on that snipe. And all 5 of the Jade Dragons now with the Fire Giant around their waist. Gamma and Kirmi here to try and annoy Scream. Maybe find a nice pick on the jungle, who is caught all by himself. Fine-OK rotates in, topped by PBM, will return the favor to take down Gamma. But now have the Valkyries stuck around for too long. Pagon blinks in, misses, well, everything. Maybe he'll find the I'm a Monster that he's been waiting for this game. Ults at his feet and misses everything. It's a whiff from him. But unfortunately, Fine-OK can clean this one up. BennyQ goes for a snipe, hits 2, but BennyQ will go down to Fine-OK once again. 3 of these kills have been for Fine-OK and 1 for Polar Bear Mike.
I mean, a great fight by the Jade Dragons, and the Valks were able to claim Fire Giant off too. I just don't know why Pagon ulted his feet. It seemed like the CC onto Wowie was clean. Maybe was fearing the Aegis, but instead just died. This is the issue with the Scylla. When you're casting I'm a Monster, you stand still for easy damage. Kirmi was able to clean up that one. Sitting 4-1 and the only one on his team to actually live through. He's going to be just fine. The Awilix still does have plenty of damage. And that fight starts with Scream getting his Fire Giant gone. He'll be spawning back in here. Still FG on I would argue the most important units at this point. You want your tanks to have that regen and Panda Cat to get the objective, so you should be just fine if you're able to group up and stop the Trebuchet over and left first. And then start looking to get these towers down. Tier 1 and left and all Tier 2s still available as the gold lead is really starting to itch its way forward. Remember, it was relatively even going into that Fire Giant, but finally the Jade Dragons pulled ahead just a bit. Looking at 3, almost 4,000. Once they get these towers, it certainly will start to climb. So where will the Valhalla Valkyries draw that line in the sand? I imagine they can step up the Tier 2s, but you gotta play it safe. Benny Q still doesn't have any relics, and Kirmi also without beads for another minute or so. You don't want to be caught out by a taunt from Mike.
Love that the 2 tanks for the team are the ones who are just standing in the back lines of the Valkyries, just letting the carries push down towers. Scream using the shielding from the horse to at least tank up the Tier 1 for a little bit. Now the minion wave there, Tier 2 goes down pretty swiftly for the Jade Dragons. Will they continue to the Phoenix and make a full commit? They know that Aquarius is not there for this fight. They know that Kirby is on the way. Taunt hits Gamma, but a good pullback from Gamma disrupts 2 of the carries for the time being. Knock up good from Wowie, but no pull in on towards the Guan Yu. The Jade Dragons will give up their efforts on left and move mid instead.
Yeah, Aquarius was able to teleport behind, but decided not to go in for that engage since the Phoenix was not under any immediate danger. Looks like Tier 2 in mid is going to be the call, but keep your eyes on Kirmi. He is behind the Jade Dragons, and he's going to hide behind the wall. So they don't have any idea just yet. But you got to imagine, once you look towards that tower and you don't see the Awelix, where else can she be? Probably behind us.
Gamma already threw out the Labe and went with the pull, but didn't find anything there. And still, Kirmi sitting around the jungle. Hasn't made his move or had made his presence known to the Dragons just yet. Scream will rotate through. We might see. Oh, never mind. Scream.
It's the interceptor, man. It's going to show where he is.
Scream pulls a nice little 180 there. PBM dashes in, finds a taunt up against Gamma. Crush doing a lot of damage, and now Kirmi has made his presence known, but it might be too little too late for him. The Gamma burst from the mid laner, or from the support, is pretty good. Paycon saved by the rest of his team. Will he let the Iron Monster rip? He will, onto Aquarius. Big damage on the solo laner, and that's the call for Final K to go in. Strips the beads off of Wowie, and the Dragons have found 2, but they end up losing Scream during the trade.
Benny Q with a nice snipe, able to answer back 1, but Pagon is also very weak. You gotta make sure you're getting the sustain here, and it looks like with Final K healing up, the Tier 2 tower in mid will also go down. But Fire Giant buff has came and went. It looks like 38 seconds before it touches down. Another pick could be disastrous for either one of these squads, so probably a good call just to go on for the full retreat. Oni Fury will spawn in here shortly as well, about 10 seconds away. Will the Valks stick around? It looks like they're just going to go for their green buff. I don't think Wowie wants to step up, but it doesn't matter because the Jade Dragons aren't going to pull it right away either. They've got plenty of gold in hand, about 2,300 for each of them. So that's going to help some extra starter items be upgraded, as well as just some last-minute power spikes before this Fire Giant spawns in once again. And I like that Mike's already here, because we've seen time and time again where teams just decide to rush the objective off the respawn, and you know, you're just not ready for it. So Mike's going to make sure that no sneaky plays are happening and get some vision down behind the Fire Giant as well. Kirmi's hiding in the fog, though. We'll have to see if anyone walks up. You know, Final K is not the target you'd like. If someone's going to run up on you in the mist, you don't want it to be this Guan Yu.
Fine, okay, doesn't even pay any mind.
My man didn't even check the mist.
He didn't even look. He's like, you know what? Whatever. If someone hasn't gotten it, someone else can get it later on. He and his team will back away towards their side instead. It's Pagon hiding inside the mist on their side of the map. Kirmi hasn't left that circle yet. He is determined to be there. Maybe he can find a pick on Scream if Scream decides to try and go for it, but Scream as well will group up towards the right side and use the wall as a brace for himself so he doesn't run too far away.
Yeah, it's always nice just to hold the horse back. You know, you don't want to be walking into this Fire Giant just yet. The Valks have the aggressive positioning, though, which is odd because they really don't have the room to be this far up. Panda Cat doesn't have relics, but besides that, the rest of the Jade Dragons feeling confident now. Those tanks are surging forward, but look at Kirby, he already ulted.
Yeah, Pagon canceled his ultimate, and that might be his life. No, quick burst away. And good damage out of Panda Cat drops Kirby. Sun Swords hit 2, but not doing a whole lot of damage. Gamma all by his lonesome. Drop down. by the Jade Dragons. 2 off the board immediately from the Valks. An ult out from Aquarius. But how far can they go with Mike and the rest of the Dragons chasing in? Wowie gone. It's 3 of the Valks on cooldown.
Looks like the call is not going to be to go back for Fire Giant. The call is going to be to surge forward for that mid Phoenix. BennyQ's beads up in 8 seconds. Besides that, Aegis is available as well. No snipe from this Raw. And it looks like the mid Phoenix is going to go down. And then the Titan is what the Jade Dragons are after.
Could be a swift end for the Jade Dragons. But
Ooh.
they'll just take the Phoenix. 8 seconds though. Kirmi and Gamma were
Probably
back
smart.
up. So the Dragons won't take the risk. They'll just strip away the 1 bird. And can now reset towards Fire. Pagon, no relics for a little while. Maybe that was the reason why they don't go in too aggressively. Again, remember, it is a blink from the Scylla, no ages. If Benny can find 1 good snipe, could be disaster for Pagon. But look where he and Mike are right now. While the team is doing Fire Giant, they're going for the damage on the other side. Jade Dragons get the Fire Giant, and all 5 can back out.
They got that mid Phoenix. Time for the full-on reset. Definitely think the end call could have been there, but with Kirmi spawning back in, and as you said, Pagon without beads. I mean, Kirmi almost found the 100 to 0. It was close. When you pre-ult, blink in, then go for that feather step, you do a ton of damage, but not enough. And I think Pagon's smart to just use the beads and cancel his ultimate and not sit there and get sniped by the Raw. The Jade Dragons are going to grab the Oni Fury, though, and once again, reset with 2,500 gold in hand. This is the second time they've backed with that amount of a power spike to be had. And it really does start to add up. I mean, the itemization is going to be looking a little bit worse for wear here from the Valhalla Valkyries. You can tell. Trying to go for some cheap power spikes. BennyQ is able to upgrade that starter item, trying to get an E-Staff online, but it won't be coming anytime soon. As well as the Divine Ruin from Gamma. And wow, he's so close to some extra penetration. These are the kind of things that could change the fight if they're able to find a little bit more pen in time. But Scream, I saw, was chasing down Kirmi. He does decide to lazy back maybe a 1v1, but it looks like Kirmi well aware that the Lancelot was on the way and kept checking his back just in case. But still, that tier 2 and right's still up, and I gotta be honest, it's kind of bugging me. Like, just because it's here, the mid Phoenix is down there pushing
do to
left.
you, man?
I'm just saying, like, it's probably it's outlived its time here.
It's lived past its usefulness, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
For the Valkyries, that might be a useful tower for them to still have. Gives that Titan a little bit more health. Pagon now with a Polynomicon and a red potion pop. A lot of extra damage from this Scylla. A lot of damage on this Phoenix. Snipe has already been expended by BennyQ. Panicat will have to resustain with the help of Fino-K.
And he's already
and
back.
the Fire Giant. You see Mike charging up the dash. Could go in and find a taunt on anybody, but there are 3 sets of beads up for the Valkyries. Could be dangerous for one of the tanks, especially Gamma's getting smacked by the damage from this Scylla.
Aquarius able to overhead kick that taunt. It's got to be taunt into Gamma Sunder, and then look to kill with a blink in on the Scream, and he's doing so much!
Kirmi is gone. Solo kill for Scream. Jungle v jungle, that one goes to the Dragons. Phoenix goes down, taunt onto Wowie. PBM sets up a double for Scream. Panda takes 1 for himself. Aquarius dives in against 5, and that's the last thing that Aqua gets to do this game, except for watch as the Jade Dragons run into the room. BennyQ beats away from the I'm a Monster. Pagon needs a lot of damage, but it's just BennyQ up against the might of the Jade Dragons. This one will be curtain calls for the Valkyries. Their chance at the playoffs have been removed. The Jade Dragons guarantee 2nd seed.
Yeah, BennyQ not going to be able to live through that one, and Pagon putting him out of his misery. The Jade Dragons, I mean, much more competitive game number 2, but still pretty map dominant, I would say. Off the back of Scream on the Lancelot, I didn't know Kirmi could even die that quickly to Lancelot, like, especially before the ultimate came through. The auto attack cancels were absolutely swinging, and it just seemed like a very simple composition, right? Mike would constantly dash taunt in, and then the follow-up would be there. Didn't have to happen that time because Scream actually got active first, but it was hard to deal with. I mean, the tanks from the Valkyries didn't have beads. It was a good overhead kick from Aqua every once in a while for those taunts, but whenever it connected, especially after the Sunder, the kill started coming through.
Yeah, the damage is just a little bit too much in the carries out there between Pandacat, Pagon with the Sikkim crushes, even late game having those poly autos thrown in there to kind of weave in a little bit of extra damage. Just felt like it was a little too oppressive from the Jade Dragons, not just in game 1, but also here in game number 2. The Jade Dragons, with that win, do solidify themselves that 2nd seed, but maybe even better for them, or I guess worse for the Valkyries. Their chances of the playoffs are now gone. Next time that we'll see the Valkyries will technically be Sunday, but after this week, it'll be the last competitive game all the way until January. Congratulations to the Jade Dragons. That's it from Charlie and I over here on the cast. We'll throw back over to Des to keep it going.
That's right. A congratulations is due. Secured their spot in the top 2. And Mifflin, for you specifically, because I know you personally enjoy this, knocked somebody else away from the playoffs
I
in
love
the
that.
process. Yeah, it feels really good to get a win and maybe ruin somebody else in the process. As J-Max said, only one more set for the Valkyries this week. On Sunday, they'll be playing the Bolts, and that'll be the last time we see them until the qualifier week before Worlds. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at the Dragons right now, not just today. Tomorrow, they'll play set number 1, of course, now officially as the 2nd seed in the Phase 3 playoffs.
It's going to be a goofy set, I think.
The tomorrow's
Yeah.
up against the Bolts. So I guess now that the Bolts know that they're set, and that the Dragons know that they're set, they could both work around a little bit.
I think so. I'm imagining they have a little bit of fun in
Just
that
a little
matchup.
teensy bit.
It's the Jade Dragons.
More or less fun than what we just saw them have.
That I don't know. I don't think that's like them goofing around.
No, well, they weren't
came
goofing
to
around.
win. Like that was serious time for the Jade Dragons. Tomorrow, probably not.
I guess we'll get to find out. That's always the fun of the end of phase matches. Like right as the last couple of days roll around and things get secured, that's typically where we see some of the most interesting SMITE, is the way I'll call it. I think we actually saw, there was something, again, this is like 2 years ago. I'm thinking with, like, I remember E United, SSG, there was a really interesting matchup at the end of Season 7 last year. It was like a speed run to finish the list of gods. Like, everybody was like, hey, who still needs to be played?
We've got
And
them
then
all
they just
this year, I
started
think,
locking
right?
them. But now, yeah, we've got them all.
Yes.
The Kronos, actually, earlier today was the last one that was on that list. And turns
Got it
out
twice.
he looked pretty solid. Admittedly, still lost 2 games, but I think the damage numbers were up there. But all that we really need to talk about right now is the fact that the Dragons secure a 2nd seed. Maybe they'll give us some insight as to whether or not tomorrow is going to be silly, because we've actually got Fine OK with the Dragons standing by with J-Max. So take it away.
You know what? I think I'll go ahead and kind of open with that one. So you guys are done. You secured your 2nd seed now. It's all downhill, uphill, whichever way you want to call it from here. Fine, okay, we're going to expect to maybe see a little bit of fun tomorrow up against the Olympus Bolts.
Yeah, probably. I mean, probably won't just like completely troll because we want to like entertain the viewers, of course. But might do some like tryout picks, you know. But try with the bad picks, if you will, to see how good or bad they actually are. Kind of one of those things. So yeah, but we'll probably have some fun.
All right, now, this is a question that we always bring up, and we always know the answer for Mifflin, so I'll get your answer on this. Is it more satisfying for you to win and knock somebody else out of a tournament, or to kind of just be able to, like, is it more satisfying for you to get the win or to knock that person out?
I don't really like take pleasure in knocking anybody out for that, but like I think it's just more about the win and like kind of where like we are heading into like Worlds and where like how we're preparing and everything. You know, we're pretty happy about securing the 2nd seed, and you know, if we can learn anything from our history from like the past Worlds, you know, going into the actual Worlds itself, the seeding and stuff like that isn't the most important thing. So we're trying to take a bit of a different approach this year and hopefully come out of Worlds with a win.
Yeah, and kind of talking on that one, because once it gets to Worlds, you guys start in quarters, then you have your semis and your finals, unlike some other ones where it goes through there. But for this qualification stage, since you have made top 2, that means you technically only need 1 win to be able to make it towards Worlds. So how important do you think that having just that that necessity for only 1 win is compared to some of the other teams who have to fight a little bit harder to get those spots?
That's probably the most important thing, getting into like the qualifier tournament for Worlds. You know, having that 2nd seed is definitely a huge advantage, only 1 win. But, you know, if we can learn from history again, you know, we lost to Armada at a land that we thought, you know, David versus Goliath. So we're not taking anybody like too lightly, and we're just trying to prepare the best we can for Worlds.
Well, fine, okay, congratulations on your win today against the Valkyries. I'll let you get back with the team, and we'll throw it back over to Des to close it out.
A very, I think, good mindset, right, going forward is the idea, and especially for Fine OK, like remembering things going wrong in certain scenarios, being able to look ahead and say that they are going to keep things balanced. Mifflin, you seem like you have something on your mind.
Look, J-Mac butchered my thing, man. All right, look, is it more fun to win or to inflict a loss? That is the hypothetical. That is the quandary that I pose to you in the chat and the fans at home. Would you rather win or inflict a loss? I like inflicting losses.
Yeah.
I don't go home and say, I won. I go home and say, man, I made them lose. And that feels better for me.
That's how I play, like, any Battle Royale ever.
Yeah.
Like Realm Royale, if
Yeah.
I'm in there, like I don't care if I win. I care about being the one that's eliminated. Like if I get like 18 kills and then I get third place, or even worse if I like just place top 10 or whatever, but I knocked out so many. Yeah, no, I'm with you. At least in that realm of space, I've never wanted to or thought about my opponents in a true competition. I've thought about how I could be the best that I've wanted.
Yeah, even when even in traditional sports, like when I used to play football, I was
Yeah.
on defensive line. I wouldn't think about the score. I'm thinking about the dude that's now a smear on the grass, right? Like that's what I wanted to do. That's all I cared about. Here's some replays.
I was going to try to figure out a way to segue that. I guess speaking of smears on the grass, although the Valkyries definitely put up more of a fight than maybe you were facing. And when did you play football? Would that
High
have been
school.
high school?
That's
Okay.
right. It wasn't
I,
recently.
I was going to say,
I've
I
been here for a
definitely,
while.
well, I was like, I don't think I've heard of this era of Mifflin before. So it had to have been a while ago. Yeah, no, it's just good play. The Valkyries put up a decent fight for a while, but the Dragons kind of just do the Dragons thing, where eventually they got far enough ahead that they were able to just take fights whenever they wanted to. Unfortunately, and you had highlighted it, that the Raw was maybe going to struggle a little bit. And you can see it in a lot of these fights. Damage from behind, but once the ult was down, the beam was gone. Maybe not providing as much to the team as you would have liked, and I think that kind of showcased with a lot of it. Also, when you're getting double kills for Scream constantly at 8-4 and 11, and setting a Panda Cat at 6-2 and 11, it feels like a lot of success is going your way. Of course, FinoK has an undying game as well. And it's just a lot of successes for the Jade Dragons as that game goes on. The Valkyries kill them a little more often this game and keep it closer longer, but the Dragons still pulled the lead.
Yeah, I would say, though, maybe one weakness that reveals itself for the Jade Dragons here, hard to come by, right? But the performance from Pagon in particular on the Scylla, I think, left a little bit to be desired.
Yeah.
Saw a couple of team fights where the ultimate, he, channels it, gets, slammed by 4 abilities, doesn't even shoot it out, cancels it, jumps away. That happened a few too many times. Maybe some of those leap-ins, a bit over-aggressive, might be just a tendency of the Jade Dragons, right? Adrenaline's rushing, your whole team's running forward, you want to get in there as well. But that Scylla, I think, left a little bit to be desired. I'll be curious to see whether or not the Jade Dragons and Pagon decide to go back towards it in the future. If it's something that they think is strong, but they want to continue developing, or maybe it was just a bit of a fun pick for them, to be determined. But maybe one thing that the rest of the league can keep their eye on.
If he plays it again tomorrow, we'll know based on what FinoK said in the interview that they think it's a bad pick that they could maybe try out to see how bad it truly is. I'm excited to see what that one is. And, of course, we can actually look at the schedule and the standings to see this matchups that we're talking about here. 2-0s today in comparison to a rather lengthy day yesterday, all 2-1s, and some long ones at that. Tomorrow we're going to kick things off around 1 p.m. with the Bolts taking on the Dragons, so we'll get to see what this team has to offer. The Bolts maybe sweating a little less, knowing that they technically have some losses they can afford more than they did in I guess coming into today. Still probably going to try to put some work on the Bolts in a relatively long slump right now. Looking a little better, but we even saw it yesterday in Game 1 versus the Titans. That late game it still needs a little bit of work. So maybe we'll see that tomorrow. Definitely going to see them again on Sunday as they take on the Valkyries. Leviathans and Warriors, another one I'm really excited for. Again, the Warriors jumping up in the standings from what we've seen. A very competitive team. I think very exciting to see what they're going to be able to do up against the #1 seed. And then Sunday's the triple header starting at 11 a.m. one more time. Titans, Kings, Scarabs, Warriors, and then the Valkyries and the Bolts to round out Phase 3. We'll take a quick break for a week after that, and then November 30th come back for the Phase 3 playoffs. But it'll be a nice little relax. I guess 10 days between the end of the phase and the Phase 3 playoffs before we truly kick off that road to Worlds. And of course, if we look at the standings, you'll see your top 6 teams that are going to those playoffs. This is how it's going to shake out. Again, there's maybe some wiggle room still at the bottom for whether who's truly 7th and 8th based on how the Scarabs do, how the Valkyries do against the Bolts, if they can wins like that. But as far as 1 and 2, those are secured, and the teams that are listed in the top 6, that is going to be who will be playing in the Phase 3 playoffs. And Mifflin, it makes things really exciting. I mean, 4 of those teams are going to make it to Worlds. Everyone has to favor, in that case, the top 2 seeds, but we've seen some wild things happen. It's double elim, things like that. And so it's going to be fun, especially with how competitive a lot of them have been. Those playoffs might be the most wild card-esque playoffs that we've gotten to see.
Just feels like any one of these teams on any given day has the ability to take out literally everybody, and that includes the bottom two as well. This new version of the Solar Scarabs, I think one of their best iterations. The Valhalla Valkyries, been finding a couple of stray wins here and there as well, so every team in the league at least posing a bit of a threat. The only real seeding implications I think going forward is 4, 5, and 6. I don't imagine number 3 shifts up too much and 1 and 2 solidified.
Yeah, I think it's really just the Titans Warriors area that can really kind of shift around. And so if you're looking at like 4 and 5, again, maybe that matters a lot to you. I think top 2 were the most important. At this point now it's secured to have outside of top 6 just getting to the playoffs. So it feels really solid for those teams. But we still got a lot of Smite to be played this weekend, whether it's going to be seeding changes. In the case of the Dragons, as they hinted at, maybe a little bit of fun that we're going to be having throughout the rest of the weekend. But I'm excited to see the end of Phase 3. I'm sure Mifflin is, as well as hopefully you at home are as well. But for myself, from Mifflin, of course, everyone here in the studio and back in production, I'd like to thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m.